Welcome to part 1 of the critical hit system. If you encounter any issues or have feedback, please let me know in the comments rather than just disliking the video. Your input helps me improve, and I'm here to make sure you have the best experience possible. Enjoy the content.
Chapter 1, Part 1, Great Zhou Divine Sovereign Dynasty, Lixia County, Chang'e Academy. Ding! You practiced hard, practiced the Breaking Mountain Fist, completely, triggered a critical hit, and got 10 times the reward. The prompt sounded in my mind. Luo Mu's face also showed a look of surprise. Really? It's not an illusion. Just now, the system that has been waiting for 15 years has finally been launched. It's called God Rewards Hard Work. 1 point of effort, 1 point of reward, and at least 10 times. For example, the 10 times critical hit just triggered is equivalent to practicing 10 times. The thought fell. A lot of insights poured into my mind. In many lights and shadows, he seemed to have really practiced 10 times. Luo Mu clenched his hands, and the many unwillingness suppressed in his chest gradually disappeared at this moment. Transmigrate this world has been 15 years. After learning about the existence of martial Tao, he was extremely excited. Day and night, regardless of the weather. He practiced diligently every day. But martial arts training requires aptitude, and in this aspect, he happened to be mediocre. He started practicing martial arts at the age of 8, and now it has been 7 years. But he is still hovering in the body-tempering realm's 6th layer. Progress is slow. It's not that he didn't work hard enough, but his aptitude is limited, and it's useless to work harder. If I can gain more than 10 times every time, I can also be considered a genius. Luo Mu thought to himself. The biggest difference between geniuses and ordinary people is the harvest rate. The harvest they gain from 1 day of practice. Ordinary people need more than 10 days, or even dozens of days to catch up. Try to practice again. Luo Mu sat cross-legged in the yard directly. He took out a pill and swallowed it. He silently recited the formula of the exercise, and ran the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign Heaven in his body. An hour later. Ding! You practiced hard and successfully ran a Great Zhou Divine Sovereign Heaven, triggered a critical hit, and gained 100 times the harvest. In his mind, the prompt sound rang again. What? 100 times? Luo Mu was shocked. He thought that a 10-fold or dozens-fold would be very good. Who would have thought it was 100 times? Boom! The body shook. The blood and chi surged, entering the realm of the 7th layer. This is also... Luo Mu looked at his hands, somewhat unbelievable. Although he had already approached the limit of the 6th layer, he still had a short distance to the 7th layer. According to his own estimation, if he practiced for 6 hours a day and had enough pills, it would take more than 10 days. But now he had completed this journey in just 1 hour. The most important thing is, Luo Mu discovered another amazing thing about the system. That is, he only took 1 pill. But a 100-fold critical hit was equivalent to using 100 pills. It saved him 99 pills. In a sense, I am now really no different from the geniuses in the inner palace, or even more evil. Luo Mu raised the corner of his mouth. The so-called genius. That is, using the least time and the least resources to make the most progress. Continue practicing. Luo Mu regained his mind and stopped being immersed in joy. Finally got Goldfinger. How could he slack off? The next day, the rosy clouds were bright. Luo Mu pushed open the door and walked out. One night, 6 hours, he practiced 6 Great Zhou Divine Sovereign days. It was a pity that he did not trigger 100 times crit again. But the minimum was 10 times, and the total was almost 100 times. Full of gains. At this rate, at most half a month, I will be able to break through again. Luo Mu's face showed satisfaction. This was something he could not imagine in the past. If there were a few more 100 times crit, or even higher, the time required could be greatly shortened. Go to the Kangwu building. As long as the students in the palace reach the 7th layer of the body-tempering realm, they can go to the Kangwu building and choose a character technique or martial arts to practice for free. This is the welfare of the academy. It is also one of the reasons why everyone racked their brains to join the academy. Martial arts are divided into entry-level, human level, profound rank, earth rank, and heavenly rank. There seems to be more above heavenly rank, but for ordinary people, the human level is already a very apex-level martial arts. If a human-level martial arts is released outside, it will definitely attract many martial artists to compete for it. But in the academy, it can be easily learned. And if you break through to the true realm, there is even a chance to learn a profound rank. In 2 months, it will be the academy ceremony. I don't know how many of our outer palace students will be on the list in this ceremony. I don't think it's sure. This year, the inner palace has accepted several geniuses from the royal family. It's already very good for our outer palace to keep the number of people from the previous session. When Luo Mu came to the Kangwu building, he heard many people talking. The academy ceremony? Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. The academy ceremony is held every 3 years. As long as you can enter the top 100, there will be good rewards. and there will be a chance to enter the military in the future. From then on, he will embark on the road to becoming a conferred king. So many people regard the Academy ceremony as a turning point to change their destiny. The Academy is divided into the Inner Palace and the Outer Palace. The Inner Palace is for true geniuses, and most of them are the sons of kings, princes, and generals. As for the Outer Palace, it is basically the children of commoners, like him. So every time there is an Academy ceremony, the first 100 miles are occupied by the Inner Palace. When the Outer Palace was at its worst, there were only single digits. Before, Luo Mu naturally did not dare to hope to enter the top 100 of the ceremony. But now with the system as a little helper, it is not impossible to give it a try. The rewards of the Academy are very generous. There are precious elixirs, high-level skills, etc. Any one of them is far more than the support given to him by the family. So many years have passed. It is time for him to be self-reliant. Concentrating his thoughts, Luo Mu walked into the Kangwu building. The Kangwu building has 3 floors. The first floor is filled with the martial arts of the entry level. The second floor is the human level. The third floor is the profound rank. It is said that there is a formation in the third floor, and only by passing the formation can you obtain the profound rank martial arts. So not all students who have entered the true orifice can possess the profound rank martial arts. As mentioned before, it is just a chance. Chapter 2, Part 1. Elder, I have broken through to the body-tempering realm's 7th layer, and I am here to choose a human-level martial art. In the martial arts building, an old man was lying. He was very relaxed and comfortable. Hearing Luo Mu's words, he didn't even move his eyelids, but just nodded lightly. Luo Mu didn't care. Anyone who has been in the academy for a year or so knows that this elder has a very cold temperament. The first floor of the martial arts building is very wide, with nearly 100 bookshelves arranged horizontally. The rich smell of books is everywhere. On the second floor, there are fewer. Muyang Gong, human-level low-grade, can absorb the yang of heaven and earth and strengthen blood. Jifeng sword art, human-level middle grade. Qianlong stick, human-level high grade. Luo Mu looked at them one by one. He felt that he had a lot of experience. It turns out that there are so many kinds of martial arts in the world. Then what should I practice? Luo Mu pondered. Before, he practiced the breaking mountain fist, which is a mainstream martial art that almost everyone in the academy can learn. He just practiced it casually. But now it's different. Human-level martial arts are martial arts that have entered the level, and they are extremely powerful. You can't practice them casually, you have to find one that suits you. Luo Mu's eyes suddenly moved. He stopped in front of a bookshelf. Then he took out the secret book on the bookshelf. Life-destroying sword technique, human-level high grade. Just by looking at this name, there is a strong sense of killing, blowing across the face. He opened it and read the introduction. It is indeed a sword technique full of murderous intent. It needs to be practiced in killing. Once it is perfected, it will condense the life-destroying saber chi. Every knife will carry a strong sense of death. Saber chi enters the body, freezes muscles and bones, devours vitality. Good sword technique. Luo Mu was delighted to see the prey. Logically speaking, a body-tempering realm's 7th layer martial artist like him should not choose human-level high grade, because it is too difficult. Many times, it is a waste of time. It is impossible to practice at all. On the contrary, although the power of human-level low-grade martial arts is a little lower, it is easier to practice. However, Luo Mu has the system as a small assistant, so he doesn't have to worry. As long as he is hard-working enough, it is not a problem to practice to perfection. Thinking of this, Luo Mu took the martial arts secret book and left the second floor. Elder, I choose this one. Hearing this, the elder opened his eyes. When he saw that it was absolute life sword technique, there was a rare expression of surprise on his face. He dared to choose human-level high-grade martial arts when he first entered the 7th layer, or absolute life sword technique. In the Kangwu building, among the human-level martial arts, absolute life sword technique can be said to be the most difficult one. Many people practiced for more than half a year, and finally chose to give up. But the elder didn't say much. Sitting in the Kangwu Tower for so long, he has seen too many people who are ambitious. He has already said he is tired. It is better to wait for him to hit the wall, and he will turn back naturally when he feels the pain. You know the rules, right? The elder said casually. Yes. Luo Mu nodded. That means it must be returned within a month. In addition, it is not allowed to be taught privately. Once discovered, he will be expelled from the academy. Go. The elder closed his eyes again and began to dream. Returned to his residence. Luo Mu couldn't wait to open Jueshing sword technique and began to read the contents. As a human-level high-level sword technique, naturally, it is very obscure. Luo Mu just read the whole article once, and he felt that there were many questions. However, at this moment, the system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! You concentrate on studying the absolute life sword technique, triggering a critical hit and gaining 20 times the reward. Is this possible? Luo Mu was stunned. Then he reacted. Why not? Reading is also a process of hard practice. The next second, a lot of information about the absolute life sword technique suddenly emerged in his mind. He has completely memorized the contents of the entire sword technique. There is no omission, as if it is engraved in his mind. There are even some insights. Let him have a deeper understanding of the absolute life sword technique. Keep reading. Luo Mu's heart sank into the sword technique. In this way, time passed little by little, and it was noon in a blink of an eye. Ding! You concentrate on studying the absolute life sword technique for the 50th time, triggering a critical hit and gaining 40 times the reward. Luo Mu slowly put down the sword technique. He rubbed his sore eyes. At this moment, he was already familiar with any details of the absolute life sword technique. Although he is not a genius, he is not a mediocre person, otherwise he would not be able to enter the academy. He still has some understanding. As the saying goes, read a book 100 times, and its meaning will become clear. He has read it for nearly 1,500 times in total. He no longer has any doubts about the absolute life sword technique. Next, it is time to practice. Luo Mu picked up an ordinary long sword. He began to practice according to the sword techniques and formulas. For a body-tempering realm 7th layer martial artist, the human-level high-grade sword technique is still a bit difficult. Because this level of martial arts, every time you practice, you will consume a lot of mental energy. As expected, after practicing it completely, Luo Mu only felt that his blood and qi in his body were almost consumed by 1/3, and his spirit was a little tired. Even with the help of elixirs, it is estimated that he can't practice many times a day. Ding! You practice diligently, practice the absolute life sword technique completely, trigger a critical hit, and get 100 times the harvest. 100 times. Luo Mu was surprised. When I was reading the book just now, it was not triggered, and the highest was only 40. And 100 times is equivalent to practicing 100 times. If I rely on myself alone, 100 times, I am afraid it will take a month to practice. Boom. A lot of insights emerged in my mind. Let Luo Mu's swordsmanship attainments continue to improve. But soon, Luo Mu frowned. Although it is 100 times, why does it feel that the improvement is not that great? Martial arts attainments are divided into entry, initial glimpse, basic accomplishment, great accomplishment, and perfection. But just now 100 times, only improved to the initial glimpse. I forgot. Luo Mu slapped his head. The absolute swordsmanship requires a special training environment. You have to practice in killing. Otherwise, the harvest is very low. In the end, there is even no harvest. It seems that I have to go to the back mountain. Luo Mu looked up and looked at the south of the academy. There is the back mountain of the academy. It is also a training place specially set up by the academy. There are monsters kept in the academy. The strongest one is up to level 3, comparable to human race spirit C. Chapter 2, Part 2. Body tempering realm 7th layer. It's still a little low. Wait until 9th layer. Luo Mu still has some self-knowledge. Every time the body tempering realm breaks through the 1st layer, the qi and blood will surge sharply. So when it comes to 9th layer, he practiced this absolute life sword technique, and it was not so difficult. It can also cope with the environment outside the back mountain. Practice. Back in the room, Luo Mu sat cross-legged, took out the pill, and swallowed it into his stomach. Chapter 3, Part 1. Time flies. 7 days passed quickly. Creak. Luo Mu pushed open the door and walked out. He was completely different from 7 days ago. His blood was strong and surging. On his skin, there was a strong blood emanating from his pores. He stood there like a burning oven. Body tempering realm 9th layer. Luo Mu's eyes were excited. In just 7 days, he not only quickly cultivated to the 8th layer, but even today, he broke through to the 9th layer in one breath. Such an exaggerated cultivation speed. Even the geniuses in the inner palace can hardly compare. Of course, this is mainly due to the fact that there were many hundredfold critical hits in these 7 days. Otherwise, it would not be so fast. I wonder what a 1,000-fold critical hit feels like? Having tasted the sweetness of a 100-fold critical hit, Luo Mu began to imagine the scene of a 1,000-fold critical hit. Retract the thought. Luo Mu picked up the long knife by the door. It's time to go to the back mountain. Only there is a suitable place to practice absolute sword technique. Changle Academy. Great Zhou Divine Sovereign Dynasty, one of the 7 great academies. The geographical location is also very special. Located in the center of the 7 counties. Therefore, unless the heroes in the 7 counties are enrolled in the sect, they will rush to the academy to study. Is this the back mountain? Luo Mu stood on a huge rock. Looking forward, you can see the undulating mountains, stretching endlessly. The ancient trees are majestic, the highest of which is even 100 meters, lush and leafy. A gust of wind came, and the forest sea surged, and waves suddenly appeared. Occasionally, there were a few loud beast calls, adding a sense of ferocity. In the past, Luo Mu had low strength, so he naturally had not been here. So today is the first time. In fact, the back mountain is a way for students from the outer palace to earn resources. After killing the monster, some valuable parts can be sold to the academy. Get contribution points. Contribution points can be used to exchange for elixirs, weapons, skills, etc. Let's get started. Luo Mu took a deep breath, jumped off the boulder, and rushed towards the forest. Roar. Not long after, Luo Mu encountered the first monster. It was wolf-like in appearance. It was covered with lush hair and felt like iron. Iron Bone Wolf. Luo Mu recognized it. The academy has a miscellaneous course that teaches how to identify monster types, spirit medicine types, etc. Luo Mu had finished studying it a year ago. Iron Bone Wolf is a relatively low-level monster. It has a strong reproductive ability, so it is more common outside the back mountain. I'll start with you. Luo Mu pulled out the long knife from his waist. He began to silently recite the formula of absolute life sword technique, and the blood in his body began to circulate along the corresponding path. For a moment, the whole person's temperament also changed a little. It looked a little cold. Woo! The Iron Bone Wolf subconsciously sensed the danger. He wanted to escape, but the next second, swish, a snow-white knife light flashed. The Iron Bone Wolf split into two and fell heavily to the ground. This Iron Bone Wolf was only a beginner level 1, equivalent to a martial artist from the human race body tempering realm to the 3rd layer. Luo Mu naturally had no pressure in dealing with it. Buzz. It was visible to the naked eye that a wisp of gray mist appeared in the Iron Bone Wolf's body and flowed into Luo Mu's palm, and a vague knife-shaped mark appeared on the back of his palm. This is the absolute life and death seal, something that will only appear after the initial glimpse of the knife method. And when the knife method is perfected, the mark will be completely formed and will be dark black. Ding! You used the absolute life sword method, experienced a battle, triggered a critical hit, and gained 10 times the reward. Many insights suddenly emerged in my mind, and the knife-shaped mark on the back of my palm also solidified a little. Moving towards basic accomplishment, it seems that we really need to find a suitable environment. Luo Mu felt the improvement of his swordsmanship and couldn't help but murmur. This is only 10 times, but it is almost catching up with the previous 100 times. Continue. Luo Mu turned the blade and shook off the blood. For some reason, after seeing the blood, it was as if a string in his heart was plucked. Or rather, it was more like a door was opened. Cut, cut, cut. In the dark forest, the blade light was like snow. Every time it flashed, there was a cry of grief. Luo Mu held the blade, panting slightly. Even though he had already stepped into the body-tempering realm 9th layer, he could not keep killing. The power of absolute life sword technique is indeed terrible, but the consumption is also exaggerated. He has experienced 10 battles. The blood in his body is almost exhausted. He also felt tired. Ding! You used absolute life sword technique and experienced the 10th battle, triggered a critical hit, and obtained 50 times the reward. A reminder sounded in his mind. A smile appeared on Luo Mu's tired face. Not bad. It's actually 50 times. It's also a great reward. Boom. A lot of insights flooded into his mind again. His swordsmanship attainment also successfully entered the realm of basic accomplishment. He even went a long way forward. In less than half a day, he went from the initial glimpse to basic accomplishment. If people knew about this terrifying speed, they would definitely be shocked. You have to know that this is a human-level high-grade martial art. It is not some common mainstream level. Even if it is a genius in the inner palace, it will take 10 days and a half to practice to basic accomplishment. I have to change a sword in the future. Luo Mu looked at the long sword in his hand. There was a gap on the blade. After all, this is just an ordinary sword. It is not even 100-fold temper. Turning back, there was a lot of scarlet, and there were more than 10 monster corpses. Bloodthirsty monkeys. Once angry, their strength will increase a lot. It is much stronger than the Iron Bone Wolf. And the cultivation of these bloodthirsty monkeys is already relatively high. The strongest one is almost a high-level one. When he came to the corpse, Luo Mu took out the heart one by one. This is the most valuable part of the bloodthirsty monkey. It is also the main material for refining the bloodthirsty pill. Like the Iron Bone Wolf before, it has no value, so Luo Mu didn't even look at it. Take a rest. Luo Mu turned and left. He was ready to stay in the back mountain for a while, until his swordsmanship was perfected. There were rustling sounds. When Luo Mu left for a while, 3 Taoist shadows came together. Looking at the corpses on the ground, each of them was shocked. Brother Lu, who did this? Along the way, there are at least 70 dead monsters, if not 100, and basically all of them were killed with one knife. Now even the bloodthirsty monkey is killed with one knife. When did we have such a swordsman in our outer palace? One person asked. The young man called Brother Lu did not answer, but squatted down and touched the wound of the corpse. When the finger touched it, it felt extremely cold, and even felt like its life force was being devoured. It's the absolute life sword technique. Brother Lu stood up and said seriously. Hiss. Hearing this, a gasp sounded immediately. In the outer palace, the absolute life sword technique is very famous, because it is one of the strongest human-level high-grade martial arts. Once it is perfected, it is comparable to the profound rank low-grade martial arts of the basic accomplishment realm. But because it is too difficult to practice, over time, it has gradually been abandoned. Not many people are still practicing now, and it's almost basic accomplishment. Brother Lu added. When this was said, the other two were shocked again. If this level of martial arts is basic accomplishment, the power can be called a qualitative change. So don't underestimate yourself. There are also hidden dragons and crouching tigers in our outer palace. Brother Lu smiled. I've learned. The two nodded immediately. With the inner palace around, the outer palace students naturally have a sense of inferiority, always feeling inferior to others in every aspect. But now, there are masters in the outer palace.
2.
Chapter 4, Part 1. The sun sets and the moon rises, over and over again. Unconsciously, half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On a huge rock, a tall figure sat cross-legged. His face was handsome and resolute. His eyebrows were like knives, containing sharpness, and his temperament was very cold, as if strangers should stay away. It was Luo Mu. At a certain moment, Luo Mu slowly opened his eyes. It was hard to describe what kind of eyes this was. It seemed that there was no emotion at all. It was not until he closed and opened again that he returned to normal little by little. This knife technique seems to affect the mind a little bit, but it's normal. Who wouldn't be affected by being in killing for a long time? As he said, Luo Mu looked around. He saw piles of corpses. He slaughtered. Monster nest. Fortunately, the knife technique is finally perfect. Luo Mu jumped off the boulder with a smile on his face. At the same time, he raised his right hand. There was a dark knife-shaped mark on the back of his palm. There seemed to be gray mist surging in it. That was absolute lifesaver chi. After half a month of practice, he had forgotten how many monsters he had killed. Until today, he slaughtered an entire monster nest. It was completely perfect. No wonder the difficulty of absolute lifesaver skill is extremely high. I have a critical hit. If there is no critical hit, how many monsters do I have to kill and how long do I have to practice? Luo Mu shook his head. It's just that the power is proportional to the difficulty. Although I am only at the 9th layer of the body tempering realm, with the absolute lifesaver skill, I should be able to compete with the martial artist who has just entered the true acupoint realm. Martial Dao practice is divided into 9 realms. Body tempering, true acupoint, spirit sea, Xiandan, opening heaven, divine ability, nirvana, and supreme. Body tempering is mainly to quench the body and strengthen the internal organs. In the true acupoint realm, it is to open up the 9 large acupoints hidden deep in the human body. Each of the apertures contains a rich amount of Yuanchu blood, also called innate blood. Once the apertures are opened, the Yuanchu blood will be integrated into the whole body, strengthening the functions of the body in all aspects. Strength, defense, speed, etc. It is not comparable to the improvement of the body tempering realm. When all 9 apertures are opened and refined into one, the martial artist will usher in a new qualitative change. The 9 apertures are united and the shackles are opened, and from then on, the vitality between heaven and earth can be absorbed to practice. This is also the key to entering the spirit sea realm. Next, it is to find a way to break through to the true aperture realm. In the past half-month, in addition to practicing swordsmanship, he has not fallen behind in the improvement of his cultivation. He is already at the limit of the 9th layer of the body tempering realm. He is only half a step away from the true aperture realm, but this half step is quite difficult, because the breakthrough of the great realm is either a result of accumulation, or it is to use a powerful elixir to break through fiercely. Weak water cannot break through the pass. For Luo Mu, the latter is the only choice. He does not have such a long time to accumulate, and the elixir used to break through the pass is often very precious. In the past, he certainly could not afford it, but now, Luo Mu glanced at the package not far away. It was full of precious materials obtained by killing monsters. It should be enough to exchange one. Return. Luo Mu picked up the package and walked towards the outer palace with satisfaction. However, at this moment, his expression suddenly moved, and he looked to the east. After practicing absolute life sword technique, he was quite sensitive to murderous aura, and at that position, he felt a strong murderous aura, which did not seem to be emitted by monsters, but more like people. I didn't expect that someone from Demon Dao would sneak into the academy. Chung Qingman covered her bleeding waist, and anger appeared on her beautiful face. She had just returned from training deep in the back mountain. When she passed by this place, she happened to meet an inner palace disciple, lying on the ground with his dying breath, and it seemed that he was seriously injured. She didn't think much about it. She came to his side and prepared to treat him. Who would have thought that the next second, the inner palace disciple would suddenly attack? Fortunately, she reacted very quickly. She avoided the vital parts. But her waist was also seriously stabbed. If she didn't treat him quickly, her life might be in danger. You are worthy of being a famous genius in the inner palace. In this situation, you can still avoid my fatal attack and even hit me with a backhand. The inner palace disciple's mouth was bleeding, touching his chest. His steps were a little staggering. Chongqingman is the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm, and he is only the 1st layer. Under a palm, he was naturally seriously injured. But compared with Chongqingman, he must be slightly better. Dare to reveal your identity in the academy? Do you think you can still walk out? Chongqingman said coldly. I have no choice. Who told me that the boss is pushing me so hard? How can I report to the task if I don't kill a genius from the inner palace? The inner palace disciple tapped his chest a few times. His complexion recovered a little. Rampant, do you think you can win for sure? Chongqingman posed. The injuries of the two were not much different. She was still in the 6th layer realm. Why would she lose? However, the next second, Chongqingman's face changed drastically. She suddenly felt weak all over and powerless. She found that dense black lines began to appear on her waist. You actually used poison. Chongqingman's body swayed and she knelt on one knee, with cold sweat on her face. What you said is so funny. How can I, a demon Dao martial artist, not know how to use poison? Seeing Chongqingman like this, the inner palace disciple's face suddenly relaxed. Damn it. Chongqingman quickly took out a detoxification pill and stuffed it into her mouth. But the effect was not good. It was obvious that the poison in her body was extraordinary. My detoxification pill can only hold out for a while, so it won't spread quickly. Okay, let's use your head as a stepping stone for my ascension. A fierce look appeared in the eyes of the inner palace disciple. He picked up the long sword beside him and prepared to cut off Chongqingman's head. It's over. Chongqingman's face showed resentment. She is a genius, the apple of her father's eye, and she obviously has a bright future. But now she is going to die at the hands of Demon Dao because of carelessness. Crack. At this moment, the sound of crushing branches suddenly sounded. Who? The inner palace disciple suddenly changed color and looked in the direction where the sound came
From?
Chapter 5, Part 1. Looking at the broken branches under his feet, Luo Mu was somewhat helpless. He forgot that he was still holding a heavy package in his hand. Otherwise, he would not have crushed it directly. I didn't expect that there was really a demon Dao trader in the academy, Luo Mu murmured. I used to hear others say it, but now I have seen it with my own eyes. In the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign dynasty, the imperial power is naturally supreme, followed by the sect, and finally these demon Dao forces and alien races. Demon Dao believes in chaotic order, spreads evil ideas everywhere, and disrupts the rule of the dynasty. Naturally, it was purged by the dynasty. But Demon Dao is like a centipede, always dead but not stiff. It will soon be revived. Over time, the two fell into a stalemate. Junior brother run? Chongqingman shouted loudly. She was surprised to see someone coming just now, but when she saw that it was just an outer palace student from the body-tempering realm 9th layer, her heart sank immediately. Even though this demon Dao martial artist had been seriously injured by her, but it was impossible for the body-tempering realm 9th layer to solve it. Wanna run? Die together. The inner palace disciples would naturally not let anyone leave here alive. He immediately rushed towards Luo Mu. He could kill a mere body-tempering realm 9th layer with one palm. True acupoint realm. Luo Mu felt that the blood in his body was about to burn. Perhaps it was because he was skilled and courageous. The confidence brought by the perfection of the swordsmanship. At this moment, he was not afraid in his heart. As usual, he had only one thought, that is, cut. Thinking, Luo Mu threw away the package in his hand and drew his sword directly. Ridiculous. Seeing that Luo Mu not only did not run, but also drew his sword, the inner palace disciples almost laughed out loud. But the next second, his smile froze, and even a look of horror emerged. Destroy life. Boom. A gray sword light that was 10 meters long came out of the sky, cutting the air. It fell on his head. The inner palace disciple subconsciously raised his sword to block. Crack. The sword body shattered directly. The knife light fell on his shoulder. The inner palace disciple screamed. His right arm flew out, and blood gushed out. After all, he was a martial artist in the true acupoint realm, so he instinctively avoided it, and only his right arm was cut. What kind of knife technique is this? The inner palace disciple looked at Luo Mu in disbelief with blood flowing out of his mouth. He was obviously just a body-tempering realm 9th layer. Why did he have such a powerful knife technique? He could threaten or even kill a martial artist who had just entered the true acupoint realm, even if he was not injured. Facing such a knife technique, the chance of winning is very low. Especially now. Luo Mu did not answer, or was too lazy to answer. He tiptoed. He rushed directly towards the inner palace disciple. The inner palace disciples are in a very bad state now. It is time to beat the fallen dog. Any nonsense is a waste of time. The inner palace disciples were shocked and angry. Attack and defense changed. I didn't expect that I would become the prey. And the hunter is just the body-tempering realm knife layer. Zhuesheng. The knife light is like snow, extremely cold. This half-month of training has enriched Luo Mu's combat experience. The angle of using the knife is also more tricky and fierce. The knife pointed directly at the vital point. The inner palace disciple kept retreating, and the scars on his body became more and more dense. The strong death energy poured into his body, constantly devouring his vitality. In the long run, he will only become weaker. Die. At a certain moment, the inner palace disciple suddenly looked fierce. He spat out a mouthful of dark blood at Luo Mu. However, Luo Mu was always alert and turned his head to avoid it. He took advantage of the situation to get into the small space. A knife was inserted into the mouth of the inner palace disciple and stabbed out from the back of his head. Zizizizi, the blood fell to the ground and immediately corroded a large area of grass. There was also a strong stench. In the miscellaneous class, the teachers focused on introducing the common methods of demon Dao martial artist. One is disguised sneak attack. The second is to use poison. The third is, among them, the use of poison is the most common. Every part of the body can hide poison. Even saliva can be a murderous weapon. Be careful, it's true. Luo Mu breathed a sigh of relief. Then a smile appeared on his face. It seems that his previous judgment was correct. After the sword skills are perfected, he can indeed compete with the martial artist who has just entered the true acupoint. No, it should be underestimated. Even if this guy is not injured, he can kill him. But if he is above the third layer of the true acupoint realm, it is hard to say. Thinking, Luo Mu was ready to retract the knife. But the blade broke into two pieces. This long knife that has been with him for more than half a month has finally reached its limit. Throw away the handle. Luo Mu looked at the woman. Chung Ching Man swore that he had never encountered such an outrageous thing in his life. An outer door body tempering actually killed the inner palace true acupoint. Even if the inner palace true acupoint has been injured, it is not something that the body tempering realm can touch. However, the reality is ironclad in front of him. Am I hallucinating? Chung Ching Man's beautiful eyes widened. Hey, are you okay? Hearing this, Chung Ching Man came back to his senses. The outer palace disciple was standing not far away and seemed to be hesitating whether to approach. This poison is not contagious, so don't worry. As a poison person, Chung Ching Man naturally knew its nature. At the same time, there was a sense of gap in her heart. In the inner palace, she was at least a beauty admired by everyone, and many people wanted to get close to her. But now she seemed to be despised. That's good. Luo Mu nodded. Then he stepped on the neck of the inner palace disciple, took out a cloth, and wrapped the head. I hope my senior sister can prove this. The head of the demon Dao trader is very valuable. It is estimated that a lot of contribution points can be obtained. Seeing this scene, Chung Ching Man's eyes twitched. This junior brother seemed a bit cruel. Of course, and thank you for your help. Otherwise, I would have died at the hands of this beast today. Chung Ching Man took a deep breath and said seriously, I will definitely reward you with a large sum of money when I return. Okay. Hearing the word, large sum of money, Luo Mu smiled immediately. What he lacks most now is cultivation resources. And the woman in front of him, wearing inner palace clothes, has such high strength. She is probably a rich woman. Let's go. Luo Mu approached and helped the woman up. Chung Ching Man was speechless for a while. I saw that Luo Mu had put on a pair of gloves without knowing when. It was obvious that he didn't want to have direct contact with her. This is too cautious. Better safe than sorry. Luo Mu smiled. That's right. Chung Ching Man could only force a forced smile.
Loving the audiobooks? Your support on Patreon helps me keep them coming. Check out the link in the description. A huge thank you for your support. Now, let's dive into the next chapter.
Chapter 6, Part 1. Chung Ching Man. Luo Mu. On the way back, the two introduced themselves to each other. If I'm not mistaken, junior brother Luo just used the absolute life sword technique, right? Chung Ching Man asked. She took a few more detoxification pills. As long as there is no fighting and no circulation of blood and qi, the toxin will not spread quickly. Yes. Luo Mu nodded. This is the most powerful sword technique among the human-level martial arts of our academy. Few people have been able to practice it in the past. I didn't expect junior brother to have practiced it, Chung Ching Man said with some admiration. The absolute life sword technique of the perfect realm is not basic accomplishment, great accomplishment. The gap between each small realm in the martial arts level can be said to be a qualitative change. No wonder he could reverse the demon Dao Jinxiao. That's because inner palace geniuses like Senior Sister don't look down on human-level martial arts. Luo Mu said with a smile, when you reach the true orifice, you can directly learn profound rank. Why waste energy on the human level? This is the benefit of inner palace geniuses. Unlike the outer palace, even if you reach the true orifice, if you want to learn the Xian Pin, you have to pass the assessment of the Kangwu building. Moreover, most inner palace geniuses are born from princes and generals, and their families have extremely high-level martial arts. Having said that, junior brother Luo still thinks too highly of our inner palace. Looking at the entire inner palace, there are not many people who want to practice the absolute life sword method to perfection. Cheng Qingman replied. Maybe. Luo Mu couldn't deny it. While chatting, the two also returned to the academy. To be precise, it was the inner palace, different from the outer palace. The environment of the inner palace is more elegant. There are Juyuan formations in many places. Luo Mu stepped on the head of the demon Dao trader and sat on a chair beside him, observing the inner palace geniuses coming and going. Most of them are in the true acupoint realm. Whether it is temperament or aura, they are definitely not comparable to the outer palace. This is related to the living environment and training methods from childhood to adulthood. Who is this person? It seems to be an outer palace disciple. Why is the cloth oozing blood? Is there a human head inside? Some sharp-eyed inner palace disciples found something strange, but after frowning, they did not come to make trouble. Although Luo Mu's cultivation level is only body-tempering realm 9th layer, the experience of half a month in the back mountain, plus the blood-red head under his feet, is still somewhat intimidating. Soon, Cheng Qingman came out. After the treatment of the elders of the academy, most of the toxins have been eliminated. Next, take good care of it, and you will be able to return to normal. Junior brother has been waiting for a long time. Let's go. Cheng Qingman said with a smile. She also changed a set of clothes, which was completely different from before. Her skin was like condensed snow, her waist was slender, and especially her legs, which were round and slender, very eye-catching. Even Luo Mu also took a little more look. Noticing Luo Mu's eyes, Cheng Qingman's mouth corners suddenly rose. I thought you were not interested in women. The cautious look along the way. Then he slightly raised his chest, trying to show off, but soon reacted. He seemed to be a little mediocre in this aspect, not having the capital. Thank you, senior sister. Luo Mu nodded. It's still quite troublesome without anyone to prove it. Junior brother, this is too much. This is what I should do. Cheng Qingman immediately shook his head. By the way, I prepared something for junior brother as a reward. As he said, Cheng Qingman took out a medicine bottle from his arms. This is Pu Yuan Dan, 2nd grade pill. I think junior brother is on the verge of a breakthrough. This thing is just useful. Pu Yuan Dan. Luo Mu's breathing stagnated slightly. Both hands under his sleeves were subconsciously clenched. In his usual practice, he used pills, not even finished pills. Not to mention the 2nd grade, he had never even seen the 1st grade. Unexpectedly, Cheng Qingman actually took out the 2nd grade pill to reward him. And it was the Pu Yuan pill. In the pill class, he heard the teacher of the academy say that if he wanted to break through to the true acupoint with a 90% chance of success, the Pu Yuan pill was the best choice. Because the Pu Yuan pill's medicinal power was not only powerful, but also very strong. But the price of the Pu Yuan pill was very high. It was not something that ordinary people could afford. Even if Luo Mu sold all the monster materials, he could not afford it. Of course, if the head was counted, maybe he could. This is a bit expensive. Luo Mu reached out to take it and put it in his sleeve. The whole set of movements was smooth and flowing. Cheng Qingman was stunned for a moment and could only rub his empty fingers. Who would accept it directly while being polite? Of course, she was going to give it to Luo Mu. But Luo Mu's approach made her feel a little novel. Unlike the inner palace, where there are long and tedious courtesies and false formalities everywhere. After a long time, it just feels boring. And Luo Mu, even though he is occasionally humble and polite, he is still very direct, very real. She likes to get along with such people. Compared with my life, how can it be precious? Cheng Qingman smiled. If you need any help in the future, you can also come to me, Luo Shueti. Soon, under the leadership of Cheng Qingman, Luo Mu came to the appraisal pavilion. With Cheng Qingman, a genius in the inner palace, many tedious procedures are naturally omitted. This group of demon Dao traders are really lingering. I just cleared a few last month, but I didn't expect there are still omissions. The deacon of the appraisal pavilion said coldly. At the same time, he put away the head. Luo Mu, right? Yes. Luo Mu nodded. The reward from the academy is a demon Dao Jinxiao head, worth 5,000 contribution points. The deacon took out 5 blue tokens. Each one represents 1,000 contribution points. Okay. Luo Mu had no objection. Because he had never been in this field before, he didn't understand it very well. But he thought that the deacon would not cheat him, and there was no need to cheat him. By the way, there are these. I am also going to exchange them for contribution points. Luo Mu took out the big bag of monster materials, but it was only exchanged for 600 contribution points. In the words of the deacon, these are just rank 1 materials. The value is not high. Therefore, Luo Mu was very glad that he met the demon Dao trader, killing monsters for more than half a month. It was only 600. The gap between the two is really too big. Chapter 7, Part 1. In more than a month, it will be the Academy ceremony. Junior brother Luo should also attend, Cheng Qingman said. Yes. Luo Mu nodded. The Academy ceremony has very generous rewards. How could he miss it? But before the ceremony, he still has to practice hard, improve his cultivation, and learn a few more martial arts. In the past half-month, he has discovered his shortcomings. For example, defense. For example, speed, etc. Once the opponent is good at body movement, it will be difficult for him to deal with it. Today I came to the Inner Palace. I also really felt the strength of the Inner Palace disciples. Looking around, they are basically in the true state, with abundant blood and qi. These geniuses enjoy the best resources. Naturally, their strength will not be weak. So I must improve again in all aspects. It is possible to defeat these geniuses and enter the top 100, or even higher. With Junior Brother's swordsmanship, it is not a problem to enter the top 100. Cheng Qingman said bluntly. Then I'll take your good wishes, senior sister. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Luo Mu smiled slightly, then bowed and turned to leave. He didn't have any extra time to waste. Cheng Qingman wanted to chat with Luo Mu again. After all, it's hard to meet someone with a similar personality. But Luo Mu seemed to have no interest. This made Cheng Qingman wonder if her charm had declined recently. You have confidence in that kid? The deacon said. How many people have mastered the perfect realm of absolute life sword technique? How can you not have confidence? Cheng Qingman said. But it's only a human-level high grade after all. The deacon shook his head. And the Inner Palace is full of dragons and crouching tigers, especially this year, which is better than before. That makes sense. Cheng Qingman nodded slightly. She thought of some people who were indeed exaggerated and had already entered. Back in the room, Luo Mu couldn't wait to close the door. Then he sat cross-legged on the bed. Take out the broken Yuan Dan given by Cheng Qingman. The main effect of this pill is to help martial artists break through the realm. There is nothing else. True acupoint realm. Luo Mu's eyes were filled with anticipation. In his previous estimation, it would take at least 3 years, or even longer, for him to reach this realm. But now, it's only been more than half a month. It really feels like a dream. He exhaled lightly. Luo Mu dispersed his distracting thoughts, adjusted his state, and swallowed the Pu Yuan pill directly. Almost the moment it entered his stomach, a powerful medicinal power rushed out of the pill and spread to all parts of his body. Luo Mu hurriedly practiced the skills, absorbed it all. Qi and blood also soared more than 6 or 7 times in a short period of time. There are 9 large acupoints in the human body. They are located in the palm of the right hand, the palm of the left hand, the palm of the right foot, the palm of the left foot, and 5 near the 5 internal organs. The barrier of the palm of the right hand is the weakest. It is also the easiest to sense. Therefore, if a martial artist wants to break through to the true acupoint realm, he will choose to open the great acupoint on the palm of his right hand first. Found it. Luo Mu closed his eyes, perceived with his mind. In the darkness, he felt a light spot. That was the great acupoint. Charge. Without any hesitation, Luo Mu circulated his qi and blood, like a tide, rushing towards the great acupoint. Crack. The great acupoint barrier did not last long before it gradually broke apart. In normal times, Luo Mu's qi and blood would never have such a terrifying power. But who made the improvement of Piyuan Dan too terrifying? Wow. After the great acupoint broke apart, the pale golden Yuanchu blood flowed out. In an instant, a desire surged all over his body, as if he knew that once he swallowed it, it would be of great benefit. And the Yuanchu blood also flowed along the meridians and began to flow all over the body, gradually absorbed by the body. Crack. Luo Mu only felt his body vibrating. Whether it is flesh, membrane, meridians, or bones, they are constantly becoming tighter and tougher. There are more dark impurities on the surface of the skin. This process lasted for a whole stick of incense before it slowly stopped. Luo Mu stood up and shook off the impurities on his body, revealing fair and tough skin. Although he is only 17, he has almost developed. Standing there, he is more than 1 meter 80. His figure can be described as tall and burly. Boom. Luo Mu threw a punch casually, and the air felt like it was exploding. This is almost 30,000 pounds of punching power, right? It's worthy of the true acupoint realm. Worthy of the blood of the beginning of the universe, the improvement is great. Luo Mu was excited. Remember that when he was in the body-tempering realm 9th layer, he was only 5 or 6,000 pounds. If it weren't for his powerful swordsmanship, he couldn't fight against the demon Dao true acupoint. Using the concept of the previous life to understand, the absolute life saber chi belongs to magic damage. Ding! You practice diligently, use a Yuan Dan to break through the barrier, trigger a critical hit, and get 10 times the reward. Suddenly, the system's prompt sounded in his mind. Luo Mu was stunned. Breaking through the barrier counts. Then some lights and shadows appeared in his mind. They were all pictures of him breaking through the barrier. It was equivalent to breaking through 10 times. This, as if he thought of something, Luo Mu's eyes gradually brightened. Breaking through is not necessarily successful. He has a Yuan Dan, so it is a sure thing. If there is no Yuan Dan, if there is insufficient preparation, there is a high probability of failure. But if there is a critical hit, as long as the luck is not too bad, there will always be one time that you will succeed after 10 consecutive breakthroughs. System, awesome. Luo Mu gave a thumbs up. In this world, aptitude does not completely limit a person's upper limit, but only the speed of cultivation and the probability of breaking through the realm. The better the aptitude, the faster the cultivation speed, and the realm barrier will be weaker than that of ordinary people, and it is easier to break through. Although his aptitude is average, he has a critical hit, which means he has unlimited opportunities. To consolidate my realm, I should go to the martial arts building again tomorrow. Luo Mu opened the window to let in some fresh air, and then sat back on the bed. He needs to learn more martial arts. Make up for his own shortcomings. Chapter 8, Part 1. The next day, breaking dawn, Luo Mu changed into clean and tidy clothes and walked out of the room. After breaking through to the true acupoint realm, his temperament has changed a lot. There is a bit of majesty in his eyes. This is the transformation brought by the breakthrough of a great realm. Everyone will have it, especially those who are the strongest. The power of a glance can even destroy mountains and break peaks. Came to the Kangwu building. Because it was early in the morning, there were not many people. But the elder had already laid down on the chair. I don't know if he has never moved and has been here, or if he came early. Elder, I'm here to return the secret book. Luo Mu took out the secret book of Absolute Life Sword Technique and put it on the table. Hearing this, the elder slowly opened his eyes. At the same time, he looked at Luo Mu, and his eyes suddenly flashed with surprise. He remembered this young man. Half a month ago, he came to borrow Absolute Life Sword Technique. I remember that I was only at the body-tempering realm 7th layer at that time. I didn't expect that he has broken through to the true acupoint realm now. It seems that he has good aptitude. Still, without saying much, the elder picked up the secret book, looked at it, and put it away if it was not damaged. A look of satisfaction flashed in his heart. He is a man who knows the times. He returned it in just half a month. Unlike other people, he would feel pain only after hitting the wall for half a year. In his opinion, Luo Mu knew that he could not practice it, so he came to return it so early. Luo Mu naturally did not know what the elder was thinking. He continued to say, Elder, I want to break through the 3rd level of the formation. Hearing this, the elder opened his eyes again when he was about to close them. Are you serious, kid? The 3rd level of the formation is not something that everyone can break through. You have just entered the true orifice. I want to give it a try. Luo Mu's eyes were firm. Seeing this, the elder nodded and did not persuade too much. As mentioned before, he has seen too much in these years. He dared to come to challenge just after the breakthrough and ended up in disgrace in the end, and persuasion was useless. However, it is normal for young people to be full of youthful vigor. But the impression of Luo Mu in my heart began to decline again. Came to the 3rd floor. In front of him was a wide and long passage, about 20 meters. It seemed to be safe. When you walk in, the formation will be triggered and you will enter the maze. Phantoms will appear in the maze, and their strength is about the 1st layer of the true acupoint realm. But there are many. Take it seriously. I hope you can get through, the elder reminded. But the tone was casual. He didn't believe Luo Mu could get through it all. He had just entered the true acupoint, and his foundation was too low. He might be able to barely deal with one, but there were 10 phantoms in the maze. Thank you for the reminder, elder. Luo Mu nodded. His right hand pressed on the hilt of the knife at his waist. This is a new knife, but it is also a mortal weapon, so he will use it for the time being. Then he stepped into the passage. Buzz instantly. The surrounding scene changed drastically. Under his feet was a mirror-like water surface, reflecting his figure, and every step he took would cause ripples. Is this the power of the formation? Luo Mu felt novel. He had never been exposed to this aspect before, and only knew that a powerful formation could trap people in it forever. Splash. Suddenly, the water surface in front of him surged. One after another hazy figures appeared. There were 10 of them. The aura was also very strong. All of them were first layer of the true acupoint realm. This number is really not something that a beginner can deal with. Luo Mu's eyes were calm. At least the third layer and fourth layer of the true acupoint realm can crush them. However, when the third layer martial artist of the true acupoint realm comes over, the strength of these phantoms will also be upgraded to the third layer. So the key to passing through lies in one's own foundation. At least one must practice a human-level martial art to perfection before having the capital to pass through. How precious is profound rank martial arts? The academy will only pass it on to the real elites. If you can't fight 10 people alone and can't even deal with 10 phantoms without IQ, how can you talk about being an elite? But I am not an ordinary person. Luo Mu drew out the long sword from his waist. The back of his right hand under his sleeve slowly appeared. Hiss! 10 phantoms suddenly opened their cold eyes and rushed towards Luo Mu. Their claws were extremely sharp, like a blade. Once the absolute life sword technique is perfected, its power is no weaker than the profound rank low-grade martial arts at the basic accomplishment level. Absolute life. While shouting, Luo Mu also rushed forward with a knife. Absolute life saber chi surged out from the mark, covering the blade and extending to 10 meters. Cut. Luo Mu dodged the attacks of all the phantoms and passed by them, and the absolute life saber chi directly crossed their waists. The next second, crash. All the phantoms broke into two, dissipated into mist. At the same time, the surrounding scenes also began to shatter like bubbles. Outside, the elder was counting. See how long Luo Mu can hold on, or how many breaths it will take before he is knocked out. Seeing ripples in the passage, the elder knew it was over. Then the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. It was only 5 breaths. It was over? Would he be defeated too quickly? In the past, those who had just entered the true orifice could at least hold on for 10 breaths. This young man looked sturdy and tall, but he didn't expect him to be a silver spear candle. Looks good but is useless. He was the weakest one he had seen in these years. Soon, Luo Mu's figure appeared in the passage. The elder was about to go over and help him up, but his pupils suddenly shrank, and his eyes gradually showed an incredible look. In his expectation, Luo Mu should be lying on the ground now. But it was the opposite. Luo Mu was still standing, slowly putting away his knife, and there was a strong saber chi emanating from his body. Grayish. That was absolute life saber chi. The elder couldn't believe it, and even rubbed his eyes. When he saw the dark black knife mark on the back of Luo Mu's right palm, he was completely sure that it was absolute life saber chi. This kid actually practiced absolute life saber skill to perfection. But how is this possible? This kid took absolute life saber skill only half a month ago. Does that mean he practiced to perfection in half a month? The elder felt that his cognition was severely impacted. Chapter 9, Part 1. Elder, can I go in and choose a profound rank martial art? Luo Mu turned around and said with a smile. Martial arts is a general term for skills and techniques. The elder did not answer, but quickly came to Luo Mu. Looking at the dark knife mark on the back of his hand, he remained silent for a long time. No wonder he came to return the secret book today. It was not as difficult as he imagined. I can't practice it, but I have practiced it to perfection. For a moment, the state of mind that had been silent for many years was stirred up. I didn't expect that there would be a genius among the common people in the outer palace. The elder's eyes gradually moved to Luo Mu's face and looked at him. Elder, you are too kind. Luo Mu smiled slightly. He knew what the elder was referring to. It was indeed a shocking thing to practice absolute life sword technique to perfection in half a month. But he was upright and fearless. It was not practiced by demon Dao evil magic. It was all due to his own hard work. So there is no need to hide. Besides, in the academy, you have to show your talent and strength. Otherwise, you will miss a lot of training resources. I thought you couldn't even hold on for 5 breaths and were beaten out. I really misjudged you. Your name is Luo Mu, right? The elder looked at Luo Mu for the first time in a real sense. Yes. Luo Mu nodded. I remember. Go in and choose. The elder said, on the 3rd floor of the martial arts building, the highest rank is profound rank middle grade. You can choose a low grade for free, but if you want middle grade, you have to use contribution points to make up for it. I understand. Luo Mu turned around and walked in. Young people are formidable. Looking at Luo Mu's back, the elder stroked his white beard and sighed. There was also a bright color in his turbid eyes. For people of his age, it is the most gratifying thing to see such a talented civilian student in the outer palace. Only in terms of talent, this boy can probably be called the best in the outer palace. The elder thought to himself. At least in his opinion, no one in the outer palace can master the absolute sword technique in such a short time. Even the evildoers in the inner palace. It is estimated that there are only a handful of them. Passing through the passage, I came to the inside of the 3rd floor. Compared with the 1st and 2nd floors, there are much fewer bookshelves here. There are only 2. Luo Mu approached and looked at them one by one. Each secret book was placed in a dark black box. It requires special means to open it. However, there is an introduction on it, which can roughly understand the content of martial arts. Wind and Cloud Spear, profound rank low grade. After practicing, the spear is as fast as the wind, and its shadow cannot be seen, and the spear trace is unpredictable, as if hidden in the clouds. Requires 5,000 contribution points. 3 Tai styles, profound rank low grade, was created by Swordmaster Wen Tai when he was young 500 years ago. There are 3 styles in total, and each style contains a subtle understanding of Sword Dao. Requires 5,000 contribution points. Star-Shattering Fist, profound rank low grade, was created by the previous master of this academy, Master Star. It has a far-reaching purpose. After practicing it, the boxing style is grand and broad, which is of great benefit to the understanding of boxing. Requires 5,000 contribution points. Luo Mu finished reading a bookshelf. These are all martial arts of profound rank low grade. Just looking at the introduction, it is not comparable to human level. Among them is the swordsmanship of profound rank low grade, which makes him itch. Compared with human level martial arts, the preciousness of profound rank is not only reflected in the power, but also in the fact that it can help martial artists comprehend the great trend of martial Dao. What is the great trend of martial Dao? It is a kind of mysterious momentum. It can affect the surrounding void, cause strong physical and mental pressure on the opponent, and greatly increase the power of one's own martial arts. The swordsman calls it the sword momentum, the swordsman calls it the sword momentum, the boxer calls it the fist momentum, and so on. It's just that it's very difficult to comprehend the great trend of martial Dao. It may not be possible to produce one among hundreds of thousands of martial artists. It requires extremely high talent. So you can imagine how precious the martial arts that can help comprehend the great trend of martial Dao are. Of course, profound rank martial arts can only provide a little help. The most important thing is to look at the individual and look at oneself. Most people can't understand profound rank martial arts even if they practice them. Looking at the huge academy, it is estimated that only the top-ranked monsters can have it. Too expensive. Luo Mu shook his head. His main purpose of this trip was to exchange for a body-refining technique. Compared with the martial artist of the same realm, his physical function is still average, whether it is defense or speed. This was very clearly exposed in the previous half-month of training, so he had to make up for it as soon as possible. His initial idea was to exchange for the body-refining technique first, and if there was a surplus of contribution points, he would exchange for a profound rank low-grade sword technique. But now it seems it won't work. As for attack, absolute sword technique is enough for the time being. On the second bookshelf, there are profound rank middle-grade techniques in martial arts. After looking at the price, Luo Mu breathed a sigh of relief. Not bad. It's not more expensive than expected, and the contribution points are enough to make up for the price difference. Since I want to practice, I must practice a high-grade one. Otherwise, how can I have stronger strength? Make up for the gap, or pull the gap. Lonely Killing Divine Sword Art, profound rank middle grade, requires 10,000 contribution points. Sky Cloud Wandering Dragon Step, profound rank middle grade. Luo Mu looked at them carefully one by one. His breathing became heavier. I really want to learn, but I'm short of money. Wushang Dao Jing, profound rank middle grade, a powerful swordsmanship that can only be cultivated through killing. On the day of perfection, saber chi hides, eyes contain the dark, and a sword is lifeless. Requires 10,000 contribution points. When Luo Mu saw this swordsmanship, his hands were clenched. He himself was very interested in the way of the sword, and at this moment he was naturally happy to see the prey. In addition, I don't know if it's an illusion, but I always feel that this sword technique is somewhat similar to the absolute sword technique. What a pity. Luo Mu gritted his teeth and put it down. In his heart, he wanted to kill a few more demon Dao traders right away. I can only change it later. Luo Mu was determined and knew what he lacked most at this stage. No matter how strong the wind blows, I will remain unmoved. A strong body is the foundation. Xianyang Hegemony Body Skill, profound rank middle grade, can absorb the essence of the sun into the body, strengthen the blood, and nourish the power of the scorching sun. When it is perfected, the blood can be released and a set of fire armor can be condensed. Requires 10,000 contribution points. Chapter 10, Part 1. Xianyang Ba Tigong, profound rank middle grade, can absorb the essence of the sun into the body, strengthen the blood and qi, and nourish the power of the flaming sun. When it is perfected, it can release the blood and qi to condense a fire armor. Requires 10,000 contribution points. This technique is good. Luo Mu's eyes lit up. It can actually absorb the essence of the sun between heaven and earth. The essence of the sun, also known as the essence of the yang, can be said to be one of the best powers for flesh refining. It can burn impurities deep in the body, refine the meridians, flesh, bones, etc., and continuously improve the strength of the body. The blood and qi can also be as hot and strong as the yang. It is enough to resist some magic arts and even poisons. The most important thing is that after perfection, it can also form a flaming armor transformed by blood and qi outside the body. The defense is extremely high. Unless there is a magic weapon, ordinary martial artists can't break it at all, and it is even difficult to leave a mark. It's you. Luo Mu took the black box and walked out. The elder was still waiting at the door. When he saw Luo Mu come out, a smile suddenly appeared on his usually calm face. Have you chosen? The elder asked. I have chosen. Luo Mu handed over the black box. The elder raised his eyebrows. What's wrong? The elder's reaction puzzled Luo Mu. Since you skipped low grade and settled on middle grade, I thought you would choose Wusheng Daojing. The elder replied. That sword technique is indeed very interesting, but at this stage, I need to improve my physical strength, so I can only come back after I have enough contribution points. Luo Mu said with a smile. Physical strength? The elder nodded slightly. I can understand. The physical body is the foundation. A strong physical body can support the practice of stronger martial arts in the future. Purely practicing martial arts will sooner or later pay the price. The reason why I mentioned Wusheng Daojing is mainly because of Jusheng Dao Fa. The elder said. Oh. Luo Mu's eyebrows moved slightly. You should have read the introduction of Wusheng Sword Sutra. Do you feel familiar with it? The elder stroked his white beard. Yes, a little bit. Luo Mu nodded. That's because Juesheng sword technique is derived from Wusheng Sword Sutra, or it is a simplified version of Wusheng Sword Sutra. Once Wusheng Sword Sutra is practiced, its power is very powerful. It can be called apex level in the ranks of profound rank middle grade, but at the same time, the difficulty of practice is also very high. It requires extremely high comprehension, extremely tenacious will, etc. So in order to reduce the difficulty of practice, a long time ago, a senior in the academy specially created Juesheng sword technique based on the framework of Wusheng Sword Sutra. As long as you can practice Juesheng sword technique, it is equivalent to laying a foundation. In the future, practicing Wusheng Sword Sutra will be twice as effective with half the effort and much simpler. The elder said a lot in one breath. I see. Luo Mu suddenly realized. No wonder I felt familiar just now. In addition, I didn't expect that there is such a connection between Juesheng sword technique and Wusheng Sword Sutra. Although I am jealous, I really can't afford it now. Coming back to his senses, Luo Mu's eyes became clear. No hesitation. Firm in his choice. Not bad. The elder's eyes showed admiration. If he said so, most people would definitely fall into a state of hesitation, and it is very likely to go back to exchange for Wusheng Sword Sutra. But this boy did not hesitate too much. Determined. Wait here for a while. Saying so, the elder walked inside. When he came out, there was another black box in his hand. It was the Shengwu Daojing. Elder, what's this? Luo Mu was stunned. I have been in charge of the Kangwu Tower for many years and have seen all kinds of geniuses, but this is the first time I have met someone as talented as you. Spending time on accumulating contribution points is a waste of talent. Take it, just think of it as me lending you 10,000 contribution points, and you can return it to me in the future. The elder said with a smile, and at the same time took out 2 secret books from the black box and stuffed them into Luo Mu's arms. Why are you hesitating? Are you going to refuse? Then, thank you, elder. Coming back to his senses, Luo Mu immediately grabbed the secret book and bowed. To be honest, this situation was really beyond his expectations. I had planned to exchange it later, but who would have thought that I would get it today? Practice well. In more than a month, it will be the academy ceremony. We must fight for our outer palace. This is also a little bit of my selfishness. The elder smiled. After hearing this, Luo Mu seemed to understand a little. There is competition between the outer palace students and the inner palace students. There is also competition between the elders. Please rest assured, elder. I will work hard. Luo Mu said seriously. Well, the elder stroked his white beard. In fact, if you are not talented and really a monster, I would still recommend you to choose the martial arts of profound rank low grade. Because the difficulty of practicing middle grade is too high, even for the inner palace disciples, most people still practice low grade in the end. But if you don't practice middle grade, how can you stand out? I understand. Luo Mu nodded. If you want to surpass others, you either have a magic weapon, or practice a high-grade martial arts, or... Anyway, you have to be outstanding. Then he bowed again and turned away. A good seedling. Really a good seedling. The elder looked at Luo Mu's back and couldn't help sighing in his heart. It's a pity that I don't practice swordsmanship, otherwise I might be able to accept an apprentice. Also, come on kid. This school ceremony is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. If you don't improve your strength, it won't be so easy to stand out. Back to the residence. Luo Mu put the 2 secret books on the table. He was also glad that he didn't hold back at all and fully demonstrated his strength. Otherwise, how could the dignified elder of the Kangwu Tower give him the Wuxing Sword Sutra? The Wuxing Sword Sutra needs to be practiced in killing, so it can only be put aside for the time being. Let's practice the Xinyang Tyrant Body exercise first. Luo Mu put away the Wuxing Sword Sutra. Then he began to read the Xinyang Tyrant Body exercise. In the Kangwu Tower, you can only read the introduction, but now it is the whole content. After an incense stick, Luo Mu put down the secret book, rubbed his eyebrows. It is worthy of being a profound rank middle grade. Not only is the content extensive, but it is also extremely profound. It is far from being comparable to human-level skills. I read the whole article. I didn't understand most of it. My comprehension is still a little lacking. Luo Mu knew his situation clearly. Aptitude, comprehension, these can all be understood as basic attributes. And basic attributes are closely related to basic gains. If you can improve your aptitude and comprehension in the future, your basic gains will also increase. Ding! You concentrate on studying Xianyang Ba Ti Gong, trigger a critical hit, and get 20 times the gains. The system's prompt sounded. There were suddenly many more contents about Xianyang Ba Ti Gong, and some insights in my mind. Not bad, 20 times. Luo Mu nodded. Continue. Read a book 100 times, and its meaning will become clear. If it doesn't work once, then read it twice, 3 times, 4 times, until infinity. There will always be a time for understanding. Chapter 11, Part 1. Dong. The morning bell rang. The rays of light broke through the hazy mist. In the room, Luo Mu slowly closed the secret book and let out a long breath. He stayed in the room and had been studying Xianyang Ba Ti Gong for almost 2 days. All critical hits summary. Almost 10,000 times. The harvest is naturally rich. All the difficulties have been understood. Fortunately, I didn't miss any of the previous miscellaneous courses. The basic theory is solid. Otherwise, if I don't have any knowledge, it would be useless even if I read it 10,000 times. Luo Mu was thankful. Gongfa is different from martial arts. It is closely related to the flesh, so it is necessary to know the distribution of all organs in the human body, the meridian routes, etc. It is quite complicated. If you are not careful, it is easy to make mistakes, and in serious cases, you may even go crazy and explode and die. Stand up. Luo Mu stretched his body. The whole body suddenly made a crackling sound, similar to the sound of fried beans. I need to read more books in the future, Luo Mu murmured. With the system, even if his comprehension is average, as long as the theoretical knowledge is rich and the scope is wide enough, he can achieve comprehension through analogy. Constantly generate insights. Until comprehension. Next, start practicing. Luo Mu's eyes were excited. After thoroughly understanding the Xianyang Ba Ti Gong, his understanding of this technique was naturally more profound. It is definitely a very strong body refining technique. Except for speed, there is no obvious improvement in recovery. Other aspects are all included, especially defense. Extremely powerful. In the words of the previous life, that is, the physical resistance and magic resistance have increased by at least nearly 100 points. Push open the door. Luo Mu stood under the sun, enjoying the sun bath. If you want to practice the Xianyang Ba Ti Gong, you must first find the essence of the sun. But not every ray of sunlight has the essence of the sun. It is quite rare. It depends on luck. There are some spiritual objects in the world, such as the fire god crystal, which contain the essence of the sun, and there are quite a lot of them. However, such spiritual objects are very expensive, and unless you have a rich family, you can't afford them. Luo Mu now has only 500 contribution points left, so naturally he won't consider this aspect. Begin. Luo Mu sat cross-legged. He took off his shirt, revealing his strong but not exaggerated muscles. His lines were even more perfect. After entering the realm of true enlightenment, his body was enhanced by the blood of the beginning of the Yuan dynasty, enough to withstand the weakest essence of the sun. He silently recited the formula of the technique, and the blood in his body began to circulate according to the corresponding path, radiating outward through the pores. A blood furnace was vaguely formed. Xianyang hegemony body technique is divided into 2 parts. One is induction, and the other is body refining. He is now using the key points of the technique to sense and attract the essence of the sun between heaven and earth. If it appears, it can be guided into the body. After a moment, Luo Mu's expression moved slightly. Surprise appeared. How could he sense it so quickly? Isn't it said that the essence of the sun is very rare? Is it because of my good luck, or is this area of the academy special? Without thinking too much, Luo Mu directly cut off the induction. Because in the dark, it was a huge golden light, and the temperature was terrifying. This level of solar essence was not something he could bear at the moment. Once it entered the body, it would be burned on the spot. The practice of this technique should be from shallow to deep. At the beginning, only the weakest solar essence can be absorbed. Construct the Xinyang inner court. After basic accomplishment, you can absorb the larger solar essence. Time passed little by little. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I haven't sensed it again, whether it's big or small. Luo Mu was not impatient. As the name suggests, the solar essence is the essence of the yang, which is not easy to encounter often. You have to be patient. Slowly, the sun sets in the west. When a bead of sweat dripped from Luo Mu's brow, the corners of his mouth slowly rose. Finally, I sensed it. It was a ray of solar essence as weak as a flame. It seemed that it would disperse as soon as the wind blew. It completely met his needs. Without any hesitation, Luo Mu silently recited the formula of the technique, and the qi and blood furnace burned fiercely. The temperature rose sharply. It was visible to the naked eye that the flame-sized yang essence seemed to have a sense of it, and it liked places with high temperatures. It immediately flew towards Luo Mu. It landed on his shoulder like a light swan. It gradually penetrated into the body. It was so hot. This was Luo Mu's first feeling. It seemed to burn from the inside out. This was only the weakest yang essence, and it had such power. How terrifying would it be if it was the one in the morning? There was no time to think about it. Luo Mu practiced the technique, and the qi and blood in his body surged, wrapping the yang essence in a ball, constantly cutting and dividing it into countless parts. It surged towards all parts of the body. Xinyang inner court. As the name suggests, the first thing to do is to build the inside of the body into a yang environment that can adapt to the essence of the sun. Only in this way can we absorb more powerful solar essence in the future. Luo Mu frowned. To be honest, the pain was beyond his imagination. All parts of his body seemed to be burning, but he could feel a clear improvement. Under the effect of the solar essence, the impurities in the deep layers of flesh, membrane, meridians, and bones were constantly incinerated and turned into nothing. In just a dozen breaths of time, the strength of the body has been improved by a small level. An hour later, the strand of solar essence that was cut into countless pieces was finally absorbed by all parts of the body. Luo Mu opened his mouth. He actually exhaled a strong hot breath. The grass leaves under his feet were instantly charred. It's done. Luo Mu stood up, with joy in his eyes. The construction of Xinyang inner court was simpler than he imagined. Of course, this was mainly because he had completely understood this technique and had no doubts. So there was no mistake. After absorbing a strand of solar essence, the technique was considered to be introductory. The Xinyang inner court was also initially successfully constructed. And if you want to take a first look, you need a full 50 strands of sun essence like the ones just now. It's so hard to wait for one strand, let alone 50 strands. No wonder the profound rank technique is so difficult to practice. In addition to the comprehension aspect, there are also resource limitations. Luo Mu murmured. At the same time, the system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! You practice diligently and persevere, and run the Xinyang tyrant body technique. You successfully build the Xinyang inner court, trigger a critical strike, and get a 100-fold reward. Chapter 12, Part 1. The moment the voice fell, Luo Mu only felt his whole body burning up again. There were also many lights and shadows in his mind, all of which were scenes of his cultivation, absorbing a full 100 strands of the sun's essence. And drastic changes occurred in his body. It was like the world inside a crater. The blood was like magma, roaring in the meridians. The bones were red, indestructible, and flashing with sparks. The flesh and blood all over his body seemed to be hit by countless flaming hammers, becoming tougher every minute and every second. It's 100 times. Luo Mu came back to his senses, and surprise appeared in his eyes. 100 times is equivalent to absorbing a full 100 strands of the sun's essence just now. The technique directly skipped the entry and reached the initial glimpse realm, and it went a short distance forward in the initial glimpse realm. It takes 300 strands to reach basic accomplishment from the initial glimpse. Try the effect. Luo Mu drew out the long knife next to him. He gently chopped his arm. Ding! There was a feeling of metal clashing. Thinking of this, Luo Mu increased his strength, until he used half of it. Crack! The long sword actually broke into 2 pieces, but there was no mark left on his arm. It seems that ordinary weapons can no longer cause any harm to me. Even if it is a 100-level refinement, it is estimated that it will be difficult. Luo Mu was very satisfied. These 5,500 contribution points are worth spending. When I practice Xinyang Ba Ti Gong to basic accomplishment, great accomplishment, and even perfection, there will be qualitative changes in succession, especially the fire armor. Try other aspects, such as fist power. Xinyang Ba Ti Gong is a more comprehensive body refining method, which focuses on defense first and strength second. Boom! Luo Mu punched. The air exploded immediately, and the ground within a dozen meters ahead was charred black, and the water in the pond evaporated and turned into white gas. The blood and chi are blazing, like the sun. There is also a very hard training stone next to him. Luo Mu punched it casually. Crack. The training stone actually broke into pieces. This power. Luo Mu took a breath. Compared with the previous one, it has increased by at least 70,000. To put it simply, it is equivalent to going from 30,000 to 100,000. And it is just a glimpse now. It can be said to be an exaggerated improvement. The focus of Xian Yangba Qigong is not on strength. If it is those body-refining exercises that mainly increase strength, how terrifying would it be? Luo Mu found it hard to imagine. With my current strength, even a martial artist of the 7th layer of the true acupoint realm should be able to fight with it. Luo Mu made a comparison in his mind. Of course, the premise is an ordinary martial artist. But when he practices Wushang Dao Jing, even a genius martial artist will have the confidence to defeat it. Whether it is Wushang Dao Jing or Xianyangba Qigong, they are both apex level and the middle grade level. Once perfected, the power is amazing and exaggerated. I'll improve my cultivation in the evening. There's no sunlight. Looking at the setting sun, Luo Mu walked into the room. In his life, rest only accounts for a very low proportion. The next day, Luo Mu opened his eyes. He practiced for 4 hours in one night. The effect was not bad. Although it did not trigger 100 times critical strike, it was 50 times once, and the others were all 20 times. In total, it was equivalent to practicing for 120 hours. It took a big step in the realm of the 1st layer of the true acupoint realm. But the problem also came. Luo Mu found that his cultivation resources were almost used up, almost running out. Or go home and get some? Luo Mu thought. The main reason was that the family was in Dongli County, which was too far away from the academy. Just going back and forth would take at least more than a month. And now it is not the time for the family to send him resources every year. Forget it. At worst I can go to the back mountain to hunt monsters, get some materials, and practice the Shangdao Sutra by the way. If it doesn't work, there are corresponding tasks in the academy. Luo Mu stood up. The family had spent a lot of money to send him to the academy. If it was not necessary, he didn't really want to ask the family for more. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, the gate of the courtyard was knocked. Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. He has always been a hard-working monk, and he didn't know many people in the academy, so usually no one would come to him. But he didn't think much about it, so he walked out and opened the gate. Brother Luo, good morning. Chung Qingman stood outside the door and smiled. Sister Chung? Luo Mu was surprised. I didn't expect Chung Qingman to come to him. Is it very unexpected? Chung Qingman was dressed in green, with long and round legs. Under the sunlight, she was full of youth. She was called sister, but in fact, Chung Qingman was only 1 or 2 years older than Luo Mu. It's really unexpected. I wonder if Sister Luo wants to see me. Is there something important? Luo Mu asked. I like your direct personality, but why don't you invite me in to sit down? Chung Qingman said. Sorry, I'm rude. Please come in. Luo Mu made way. Chung Qingman walked in and saw that the training stones were broken into pieces. The pond not far away was empty, and there were large areas of charred black around it. Is it caused by Brother Luo's training? What kind of martial arts can have such an effect? Although she was confused, Chung Qingman didn't ask much. Coming to a stone bench, he sat down directly without being bothered by the dust. There is basically no one in the yard, so there is no food for guests. Luo Mu sat down with him. We martial artists don't care about these things. Chung Qingman waved her hand and began to get to the point. This time I came here mainly for a mission, and I want to find Brother Luo to complete it together. Mission? Luo Mu raised his eyebrows. Yes, recently the Academy has discovered several Demon Dao strongholds that are hidden very deeply, and we need to send people to eradicate them. I and other fellow disciples have accepted one of the tasks. Chung Qingman said. How strong is the opponent? Luo Mu asked. Not high. The strongest is only the 7th layer of the true acupoint realm. Chung Qingman replied, it's just a small stronghold. The Academy treats it as a place for us to practice. As for those big ones, naturally stronger people will solve them. I'm only the 1st layer of the true acupoint realm. Why did senior sister come to me? Luo Mu thought for a while and said, you are not an ordinary Xinxiao. With the absolute sword technique, some inner palace Xinxiao 3rd layer may not be your opponent. Chung Qingman answered. What about the reward? Luo Mu asked again. 3,000 contribution points start, and in addition, it is calculated based on the head of the Demon Dao martial artist, 5,000 for each head. Chung Qingman said. Hearing this, Luo Mu's eyes suddenly lit up. In other words, as long as the task is completed, even if you do nothing, you will have 3,000 contribution points. And 3,000 contribution points can already be exchanged for a lot of cultivation resources. At least it can support his cultivation for 1 or 2 months. If he kills a few more Demon Dao martial artists, Luo Mu clenched his hands slightly. Chapter 13, Part 1. Junior brother, what do you think? Cheng Qingman asked. Since senior sister took the initiative to find me, how can I refuse? Luo Mu smiled. Thank you, senior sister. There are some things that cannot be touched without guidance. This is the law of society. Junior brother, you are too kind. You must have extraordinary strength. Cheng Qingman stood up. Because some people are still in retreat, the time is set in the evening of 5 days later. Let's meet at the gate of the academy. Okay. Luo Mu nodded. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Cheng Qingman blinked at Luo Mu. Senior sister, take care. Hearing this, Cheng Qingman rolled her eyes. What a guy who doesn't understand romance. He didn't even stay. After Cheng Qingman left, Luo Mu closed the gate. Cheng Qingman's words were actually full of loopholes. What extraordinary strength. There are many geniuses in the inner palace, and there are countless strong ones. The strength he showed before was at most in the middle and lower levels in the inner palace, or even lower. They could obviously find someone stronger, but they came to him. Is it an investment? Luo Mu's mouth curled up slightly. This is actually a common thing in the academy. Or it can be said that it is mostly the case in the entire dynasty and even in the human race territory. Although I am not the main combat force in this mission, my own strength has to be improved, just in case. Luo Mu regained his mind. Demon Dao is synonymous with sinister and treacherous. Fight with them. Realm is not the only one. Like before, the Demon Dao trader who was only in the first layer of the true acupoint realm almost killed Cheng Qingman, who was in the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm. Let's go to the back mountain again. Luo Mu planned to practice Xianyangba Qigong in the morning and Wusheng Dao Jing in the evening, two-pronged approach. No delay. Soon, 5 days passed. On the top of a high mountain somewhere, a figure sat cross-legged. His body was sturdy and tall, and his whole body exuded a fiery blood and energy like a furnace. The weeds around him had been burned. Only the ashes on the ground remained. With the melodious breeze, they slowly drifted away. Huh. Luo Mu opened his eyes. His eyes were actually red. But it was not that weird red, but a magnificent and upright red. He looked at his arm, but he saw the skin vibrate, and a layer of hazy air appeared, wrapping the whole arm. Gangqi. Luo Mu's mouth corners raised. I heard from my teacher before that when a person's body is strong enough, a kind of air will be generated. It's called Gangqi. This kind of Gangqi is very strong and hard to be penetrated by swords and knives. What a pleasant surprise. Now if others want to hit my body, they have to break this layer of Gangqi first. Luo Mu stood up. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. It is indeed a profound rank middle-grade body refining technique. At the basic accomplishment level, the body is already strong enough to produce Gangqi. You should know that many profound rank low-grade body refining techniques may not be able to produce Gangqi, even if they are practiced to perfection. Not bad. In these 5 days of practice, Luo Mu's Xianyangba Qigong has already stepped into the basic accomplishment level. In fact, the main reason is the lack of the essence of the yang. Otherwise, with his critical hits, he can definitely rush to a great accomplishment in 5 days. In 5 days, he can't find the essence of the yang every day. Even if he finds it, it may not be suitable. I'm short of money. Luo Mu's eyes condensed slightly. If his family was rich, why would he need to look for the essence of the yang wandering between heaven and earth? There must be some for sale in the academy. Then don't practice too fast. Besides, there are critical hits. He actually doesn't spend much resources. I hope that I can kill more Demon Dao martial artists on this mission. Luo Mu twisted his neck. There was a look of anticipation in his red eyes. Then he pulled out the long sword next to him and made a knife flower. During this period, he naturally did not fall behind in the practice of Wuxing Sword Sutra. He has already entered basic accomplishment. This is thanks to the foundation laid by Jueshing Sword Technique. As the elder of Kangwu Tower said, Jueshing Sword Technique is indeed derived from Wuxing Sword Technique, and the contents of the two are very similar. It's just that Wuxing Sword Technique is more profound and superior. Jueshing Sword Technique can only condense one Jueshing Saber Qi, but Wuxing Sword Technique has a full 100, and it can be hidden in various parts of the body. Unlike Jueshing Sword Technique, it can only be on the back of the hand, which is very obvious. In addition, Wuxing Sword Technique also has matching moves. It can maximize the power of the Sword Sutra. Lifeless Saber Qi. Luo Mu raised his right hand, palm facing up, and saw the illusory tip of the knife emerge. 1, 2, 3, until the 30th. These Saber Qi have the dominance of a knife, and even more strong death. One knife down. Before the knife arrives, the feeling of death has already arrived in advance. Broken sword style. Luo Mu was excited and began to practice on the top of the mountain. He held the knife in one hand. With one knife, 30 Saber Qi directly turned into a huge and ferocious knife wheel, spinning forward to kill. The ground was full of rubble, gullies, and ravines, and it was in a mess. Not bad. Luo Mu nodded. These are only 30 saber chi. If there are a full 100, the power can be imagined. Moreover, this is only one of the uses of saber chi. In addition, there are also the blade separation style, the overlord sword style, etc. Very exquisite. It takes more time to study and learn. It seems to be about time. Luo Mu put on his clothes, sheathed his sword, and hung it on his waist. Today is the time for his appointment with Chengqing Man. Try not to be late. Thinking, Luo Mu went down directly from the mountain. With the help of protruding points, landed smoothly. After 5 days of practice, his cultivation has also improved, and he has entered the second layer. The Yuanchu blood in the second big orifice has increased his physical function again, especially the quality of qi and blood. Qi and blood are the root of the power of the body-tempering realm, the true orifice realm martial artist. Whether it is a method or a martial art, it needs qi and blood as the root power to drive it. Chapter 14, Part 1. At the entrance of the academy, there are already 3 people waiting. Chengqing Man is among them. Chengqing Man, you found a bad person. We are here, but he is not. An outer palace disciple is slower than us. One of them said. He was wearing a gray robe, carrying a long sword, and his face was obviously unhappy. It's not even bright yet. Why are you in a hurry? He is not late. Chengqing Man glanced at him. You think highly of this outer palace disciple. The sword-carrying man was surprised. He didn't seem to expect Chengqing Man to confront him. Of course I think highly of him. He is the lifesaver of Senior Sister Cheng, a genius who can kill the first layer of the true acupoint realm at the 9th layer of the body-tempering realm. He has cultivated the absolute life sword technique to the perfect state. This kind of person is not common even in our inner palace. The speaker was quite young, wearing a tight suit, holding a silver spear in his arms. He is Chengqing Man's junior brother, Lin Rufeng's sister Cheng. Are you trying to invest in advance and win over your father in the future? Lin Rufeng said with a smile. In the inner palace, Chengqing Man's reputation mainly comes from his father rather than his strength. The famous, blood-brave Marquis. 30 years ago, the D tribe in southern Xinjiang rebelled and wanted to slaughter half of the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign as a token of surrender to the land of witchcraft. But the blood-brave Marquis only led an army of 10,000 to quell the unrest and beheaded 100,000 D people. The heads were piled up into a jingguan, shoulder to shoulder with the mountain. It still stands today. It is a beautiful sight. Why not? Chengqing Man asked. Of course. Lin Rufeng spread his hands. The absolute sword technique is indeed difficult, but if we really want to practice it, it is not impossible to practice it, but it is just unnecessary. Once you enter the true orifice, you can practice the profound rank. Why waste time on the human rank? The sword-carrying man is named Jiang Hai. He was a little dissatisfied when he heard Chengqing Man's words. The inner palace disciples have always been superior to the outer palace disciples, and have never been surpassed by the outer palace disciples. But Chengqing Man's olive branch was not thrown to them, but extended to an unknown outer palace disciple. Chengqing Man glanced at him, did not refute. Indeed, there are many people in the inner palace who can do it, but she investigated later. Luo Mu got this martial art only half a month ago. He practiced it to perfection in half a month. Who can do this? Such comprehension, even in the inner palace, it is difficult to surpass it. Of course, she will not publicize it, in case others come to snatch it from her. Suddenly, Chengqing Man's expression moved slightly. Not far away, a Taoist figure was walking quickly. Brother Luo, this way? Chengqing Man waved. Is that the outer palace disciple that Sister Cheng mentioned? The two looked at it immediately, eyebrows slightly raised. His appearance is not bad. He is handsome and resolute. He is tall and straight, and walks like a dragon and a tiger. But his cultivation is a little low. He is only at the second layer of the true acupoint realm. Even with the perfect level, absolute life sword technique, it is difficult to cross many realms to meet the enemy. It is even more impossible for him to be their opponent. Senior Sister Cheng. Luo Mu approached, nodded, and looked at the others at the same time. Because he did not hide his cultivation, the cultivation realms of the two people were also visible. One is at the 7th layer of the true acupoint realm, and the other is at the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm. Just looking at the realm, he is indeed a little low. But realm is realm, strength is strength. Don't look at him as only the 2nd layer. If they really fight, he will not be weaker than these 6th layer inner palace disciples. He may even be stronger. As the elder of the Kangwu Tower said, most of the inner palace disciples still practice the profound rank low-grade martial arts, not the middle grade. And he practiced at middle grade. And they have both entered basic accomplishment. Enough to make up for the gap in cultivation realm. Let me introduce you. This is Jiang Hai and Lin Rufeng, both of whom are your senior brothers. The 4 of us will go together for the next mission, Chengqing Man said with a smile. Senior brother Jiang, Senior brother Lin. Luo Mu nodded slightly. Junior brother Luo. The two also nodded slightly, which was considered a response. But after all, they are inner palace disciples. When facing outer palace disciples, there will still be natural arrogance in their demeanor. This time, with senior sister Cheng leading the way for you, I won't say anything. When you get to the Demon Dao base, don't act on your own and just protect yourself. We can't spare the energy to protect you. Zhang Hai said. Okay. Luo Mu's face was calm, and he didn't say much. He didn't feel angry or anything like that because of the obvious contempt in Zhang Hai's words. This was a very normal reaction. In the eyes of Zhang Hai and the others, he was completely a relative. Cheng Qingman brought it here to get contribution points for free. Let's go. Lin Rufeng broke the atmosphere, rode on the spirit horse next to him, and ran forward first. Zhang Hai immediately followed. He has such a personality, but he is not a bad person by nature. Cheng Qingman was afraid that Luo Mu would be upset, so she added a sentence. Sister Cheng, you are too serious. Luo Mu smiled slightly. Okay, then let's go too. It will take about a day to get there. Cheng Qingman pointed her toes, and her slender thighs rippled in the air, and landed steadily on the horse's back. If everything goes well, we can also go to my hometown Xuanyang City to play. Xuanyang City? Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. This is a first-class city in Fengdu County. It is said to be extremely prosperous. I didn't expect Cheng Qingman to be from Xuanyang City. It seems that he is indeed from an extraordinary family. P.S. I was diagnosed with kidney stones during this period, and my waist pain was unbearable. It was not until today that I felt a little better. The key point is that there is no eunuch. Chapter 15, Part 1. Around dusk, finally arrived at the destination. Along the way, Luo Mu also learned a lot of important information from the conversation of the three people. Zhang Hai and Lin Rufeng were born in a good family, but compared with Cheng Qingman, there was a world of difference. Cheng Qingman was actually the daughter of the famous blood-brave Marquis. In the 7 counties of Chengel, the name of blood-brave Marquis is well known to everyone. Even though it has been 30 years since the war, it is still talked about with relish. Walking on the road, you can often hear it. 2 days ago, I heard from a teacher that your father seemed to have slaughtered a large branch of the Red Moon demon cult, causing great damage to its vitality. And the location of these strongholds was also found from that branch. Zhang Hai looked at Cheng Qingman. How should I know? Cheng Qingman's eyes were helpless. Although the glory of her father allowed her to act smoothly and unhindered, she did not like others to mention blood-brave Marquis all the time. Luo Mu listened to the conversation between the two and looked forward. As far as the eye can see, there are vast mountains with lush greenery. There are huge trees with luxuriant branches and leaves. Not to mention night, even in the daytime, it is still a little dim. It is indeed a good place to hide. Let's go. Hurry up and solve it, and finish it early. Lin Rahai took off the cloth strip on the gun, and his face showed eagerness to try. Hearing this, the two nodded. Then they rushed in according to the map. Luo Mu followed behind slowly. Brother Luo, after you broke through to the true acupoint realm, did you go to the Kangwu building to learn profound rank martial arts? While running, Cheng Qingman turned her head and looked at Luo Mu. This Luo Mu is really a dull person. All the way here, let alone saying a word, not even a half word. Hearing this, Zhang Hai and Lin Rufeng couldn't help but look back. Yes. Luo Mu didn't expect Cheng Qingman to suddenly focus on him, but he answered truthfully. Oh, what martial arts did you learn? Cheng Qingman was curious. With Luo Mu's talent, he would definitely choose some stronger martial arts. The Wuxing Sword Sutra and the Xianyang Tyrant Body Skill. Luo Mu thought about it and didn't hide it. Hearing this, the three of them took a deep breath and looked at Luo Mu in disbelief. You know, all three people present are geniuses in the inner palace, but they have only practiced profound rank low grade. It's not that they are not interested in middle grade. It's that middle grade is too difficult. With their current foundation, let alone in a short period of time, even in 2 or 3 years, they may not be able to practice. It's better to wait until the cultivation is higher in the future. With a deep foundation, consider middle grade, and it will definitely be much faster by then. Luo Mu had just broken through to the true acupoint realm not long ago, but he directly chose profound rank middle grade, and 2 of them. Besides, these 2 martial arts are still very difficult in the middle grade level. Your courage is commendable. Zhang Hai's face returned to normal, and he only said these 4 words. Even he didn't dare to do that. Not to mention an outer palace disciple. He seemed to have seen Luo Mu being stuck in the middle grade martial arts for the next few years, with no progress and a sad face. In the inner palace, geniuses are everywhere. Many people, after stepping into the true orifice, are confident to skip the low grade and learn the middle grade. But after a few months, they will give up in disgrace. Only those monsters who rank high in the inner palace can succeed. Come on, junior brother Luo. Chung Qingman's thoughts are naturally different from Jiang Hai's. Then how are you progressing in the two martial arts now? Luo Mu was able to practice the absolute life sword technique to perfection in half a month. It can be seen that his comprehension is amazing. It is definitely not comparable to most people in the inner palace. It is estimated that he should have entered the door, or even had a glimpse. Luo Mu didn't want to hide it deliberately. He was just about to answer, but he was interrupted by Lin Ruffeng. Shut up, we're here. Lin Ruffeng stopped. Chung Qingman immediately turned back and looked forward. In the valley in the distance, dim lights flickered. There was a small base of demon Dao. Some vague figures could be seen vaguely. Junior brother Lin, junior sister Chung. This time, it depends on who of us will gain more. Jiang Hai drew out the long sword from his waist and rushed forward first. I'll accompany you to the end. Lin Ruffeng followed closely. Junior brother Luo, you should have a demon Dao martial artist of the third layer of the true acupoint realm after training outside the base. Chung Qingman looked at Luo Mu and said seriously, don't go too deep, your current realm is still a little low. Okay. Luo Mu smiled slightly and nodded. Then Chung Qingman followed. It seems that I was underestimated. Luo Mu shook his head. But it's normal. Now, except for himself, no one knows his true strength. I hope that there will be more demon Dao martial artists in the true acupoint realm outside the base. Luo Mu twisted his neck. The whole person's aura gradually became cold and fierce. It's not easy to come here. How can I return empty-handed? I must make a fortune. But after all, I was brought here by others. If I go too deep, there will always be suspicion of stealing heads. So I can only hope on the periphery. It's a dark and windy night for killing. Luo Mu's mouth corners slightly raised. His right hand pressed on the long knife at his waist. And not long after Luo Mu left, on the tree branch not far behind him, a figure in a white robe appeared. He had a middle-aged face and stood with his hands behind his back. On the white robe, there were the words Changel. Enemy attack. Not long after, more lights were lit in the originally dim valley. Although it was a small demon Dao stronghold, but it was well organized. So Chung Qingman and the other two who sneaked in were quickly discovered. However, the three were skilled and courageous. They did not panic at all. They started to kill people in all directions. As inner palace disciples, they were naturally very strong. The demon Dao side was almost one-sided. Swish. The knife lights flashed one after another. 6 or 7 body tempering realm demon Dao martial artists fell to the ground. Their heads separated, and blood gushed out from their necks. Luo Mu naturally did not waste time. He started his own actions on the periphery. Ding! You used the Wuxing Sword Sutra to kill 6 creatures in a row, fought a hearty battle, triggered a critical hit, and obtained 10 times the harvest. In his mind, the system's prompt sounded. Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly and slowly shook off the blood on the knife. I don't know if it's an illusion. Why does it feel that this tenfold harvest is more than the 20 times that I usually get in the back mountain of the academy? Is it possible that the basic gains from killing people and killing monsters are different? Try again. Luo Mu's eyes were deep. If I really kill more people, then maybe I can also attack a wave of sword skills tonight. Great accomplishment. No. Perfection. Chapter 16, Part 1. Soon, Chung Qingman and the other two rushed deep into the stronghold. There were corpses on both sides. Although it was just a small demon Dao stronghold, there were more than 200 or 300 people. Junior sister Chung, something is wrong. Why didn't we see anyone above the 5th layer of the true acupoint? Jiang Hai frowned. Logically, after killing for so long, the demon Dao should have had strong men come out to stop them. But now no one has appeared. I don't know, but now we have gone deep and there is no turning back. Chung Qingman also noticed the abnormality. Hurry up and solve it first. Okay. Jiang Hai nodded. Then he looked at a wooden building in front of him, just as he was about to walk over. But he saw the door of the wooden building opened with a bang. A tall figure slowly walked out. His upper body was naked, full of blocky muscles. Both hands were holding thick iron chains. At both ends of the iron chain, there were huge meteor hammers. When this person walked out of the tall building, a strong sense of oppression suddenly swept over the whole place. Even Jiang Hai and Lin Qingman felt the pressure. True acupoint realm, 8th layer. Jiang Hai's tone became serious. This is different from what the intelligence said. It was clearly 7th layer, but now it is 8th layer. And this person gave him a special feeling. Very strong. Tada. There were footsteps. But around, more than 10 people gradually walked out. Not only true acupoint realm, but even 6th layer or above. Chung Qingman's eyes twitched slightly. No wonder she didn't meet any true acupoint realm masters along the way. It turned out that they had already hidden in advance. Geniuses of the academy, you kept me waiting. The tall figure spoke. His face was rough, and a scar crossed his cheek. When he spoke, he was like a crawling centipede, very hideous. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the three people changed suddenly. The answer to the problem in my heart was revealed. These demon Dao were waiting for their prey. Wait. The tall figure suddenly raised his eyebrows when he saw Chongqing Man, and then he seemed to have thought of something, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. He quickly took out a scroll from his waist. After opening the scroll, there were various portraits on it, until it landed on Chongqing Man's head. Ha ha ha, after waiting for so many days, it was not in vain. A big fish has come. The tall figure laughed up to the sky. Demon Dao was not a fool. If the branch was slaughtered, the information would inevitably be leaked. According to the usual habits of the academy, those strongholds would definitely be used as places for training. So Demon Dao did the opposite. He secretly sent strong men to the strongholds, trying to kill the talented disciples who came to train, so that the academy could also taste what it means to be seriously injured. Chongqing Man, right? I didn't expect that one day, my Luo Sha twin demons could capture the daughter of the blood-brave Marquis. The tall figure stopped laughing and became cold and eerie. A month ago, your father destroyed my demon sect's main branch. Today, I will pay you back with your life. Raksha twin demons. Zhang Hai's face became more solemn. These are a pair of more famous demon Dao masters in recent months, Imo Luo and Imo Sha. The old great demon Luo is in the 8th layer of the true acupoint realm, and the second one is in the 7th layer. The two of them carry forbidden techniques, and with their combined strength, they can even compete with the Spirit Sea realm in a short period of time. So, in the true acupoint realm, these two demons can be said to be hard to beat. After Zhang Hai's introduction, Chongqing Man's face became even uglier. Although she was confident that she could fight against the 7th layer and even the 8th layer with her 6th layer cultivation, she could not be the opponent of the Luo Sha twin demons. Things are tricky. Lin Rufeng and I will cover you later. You hurry up and run. Zhang Hai looked at Chongqing Man and gritted his teeth. Not bad. Lin Rufeng also had a resolute look on his face. Chongqing Man's identity was extraordinary, and even if he got out alive, his future life might not be easy. Wanna leave? Stay today. Imo Luo laughed grimly. Kill. With one order. The demon Dao martial artists who had been sharpening their knives all around rushed towards the three people. These are not ordinary demon Dao. Each of them started from the 6th layer. They are extremely powerful. The three people also felt a strong pressure for a while. Clang, clang, clang. The swords flashed and sparks flew. After all, they were disciples of the inner palace, with a solid foundation. Even facing so many demon Dao masters, they were not defeated instantly. On the contrary, they seized the flaws and gaps from time to time, repelled the enemy, and gradually stabilized their position. Imo Luo's eyes turned cold, no longer standing by and watching. The soil under his feet exploded, and the whole person was like an ancient mountain pushing forward, crushing the three people. The meteor hammer in his hand even flew out of his hand. He smashed towards one of them. Not good. Zhang Hai's face changed drastically. He was already unable to split his attention and was suddenly attacked. He could not spare any energy for a while and could only barely move half a step to the right. But his right arm was still hit. Only the sound of bones breaking was heard. A bloody arm flew high and fell heavily on the ground. Bang! Several headless corpses fell one after another. Luo Mu's eyes were indifferent and cold. He swung his right hand and shook off the blood on the blade. All the demon Dao martial artists in this alley had been killed by him, and there were broken limbs everywhere. And he also confirmed one thing. The basic gains from killing people are much higher than those from killing demons. The difference between them is one time. Ding! You used the Wuxing Dao Sutra to kill 20 people in a row, fought a selfless battle, triggered a critical hit, and gained 100 times the gains. The system prompt sounded. 100 times. Luo Mu's eyes showed surprise. The current 100 times is equivalent to the previous 200 times. The next second, a lot of insights and combat experience emerged in his mind. He was crazy about Luo Mu. And Luo Mu's swordsmanship attainments were also rising rapidly. His swordsmanship was originally in the realm of basic accomplishment, and he had gone a long way. Now, with an increase of nearly 200 times, he directly broke through the pass and reached the realm of great accomplishment. Not bad. After a dozen breaths, Luo Mu opened his eyes and a smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. After great accomplishment of swordsmanship, the number of saber chi in the body has increased from 30 to 60. It can be said to be a qualitative improvement. Now, even if I face an 8th layer martial artist, I can easily kill him. Luo Mu's eyes were like torches. This is absolute confidence in swordsmanship. However, up to now, he has not encountered those above the 3rd layer of the true acupoint realm. As Chongqing Man said, those above the 3rd layer are deep in the stronghold. Continue. Taking a deep breath, Luo Mu walked forward. There aren't so many people for him to kill outside, so I should try to perfect my swordsmanship today. The only pity now is that Chongqing man and the other two are surrounding the deep part of the stronghold, and I am embarrassed to go in and grab the heads. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps. Luo Mu's eyes condensed. I saw a shadow of a Taoist falling in the alley in front. He was thin. He had a half-faced ghost mask. There was a word, Sha, between his eyebrows. He held a short sword about half an inch long in both hands. Chapter 17, Part 1. True Acupoint Realm, 7th Layer? Luo Mu was slightly stunned. He really didn't expect that there would be such a level of demon Dao martial artist outside the base. But soon, a knowing smile appeared on his face. He didn't go deep into the base. He met him outside. Among the rewards of the academy, only killing a demon Dao martial artist in the true Acupoint realm can get contribution points. The stronger the true Acupoint realm demon Dao, the higher the reward. The visitor looked around the alley. It seemed that he didn't expect so many people to die. Then his eyes fell on Luo Mu. Although he was only at the 2nd layer, the murderous aura moved him. When did the disciples of Chang'e Outer Palace have such strength? Masha spoke slowly. His eyes gradually became cold. Because there were some things to deal with, he left the base for a short time, believing that his elder brother could deal with those academy disciples. Besides, there were elders. As a result, on the way back, he saw this scene. Boy, what's your name? Masha raised the short sword in his hand slightly, like a hunter examining his prey. Swish. However, what responded to him was a knife light as white as snow. Directly illuminated the dim alley. Masha dodged suddenly. A huge Dao mark had appeared on the spot. His pupils shrank slightly. If he hadn't dodged just now, he would definitely have been split in two. Good reaction. A calm voice. Masha suddenly raised his head and met a pair of eyes that seemed to have no emotions. In the continuous knife light, like a galaxy pouring down, densely covering all directions. Masha's scalp numbed instantly. At this moment, he finally understood why this boy was only a 2nd layer cultivator, but could kill so many people in a row. This knife method is simply not something that ordinary people can possess. The power is at least middle grade. It can already threaten the martial artist of the 7th and 8th layer of the true Acupoint realm. Quick! Masha's body shook, like an afterimage. Let Luo Mu slash the air with a knife. But Luo Mu was like a tarsal bone, following in an instant, always keeping a distance from Masha. This guy has rich combat experience. Masha felt that he had met a freak. It's not that he had never killed disciples of Chang'e Academy, but none of them could bring him such exaggerated pressure like the one in front of him. This person's strength is not something that an ordinary demon Dao martial artist can have. Luo Mu's mouth corners raised, and his eyes began to flash brightly. After coming to the base, no one could block his knife. But this person dodged one after another, obviously with good body skills. Interesting. Luo Mu's heart ignited the desire to fight. So far, he has not met an opponent who can force him to use all his strength, and he hopes this person can do it. There is no chance of winning in a head-on confrontation. You have to find an opportunity to sneak attack. Masha held a short sword in each hand. His eyes were sinister and cruel. He was training in body movements and sneak attacks, and was not meant for direct confrontation. Almost the moment the thought came to mind, Masha actually felt like he was melting into the darkness. In Luo Mu's field of vision, he disappeared, and the darkness around him seemed to have turned into a lake, surging and drowning Luo Mu. Is this shadow magic? Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. I remember that in the training class, the teacher talked about some classic demon Dao magic skills. Shadow magic is one of the major categories. Most practitioners of this kind of magic skill are good at assassination. Silently, Masha poked out of the darkness and appeared behind Luo Mu. Die! Masha crossed his short swords in both hands and slashed at Luo Mu's neck at an extremely fast speed. And Luo Mu did not react at all. For a moment, he seemed to see the scene of Luo Mu's head rolling down. Just the next second, clang, sparks burst out. Before the short sword could cut the skin, it was blocked by a hard air. Masha was stunned, and then his pupils shrank suddenly, and his hair stood on end. His face was filled with disbelief. God knows what he saw. That was Gongqi, a martial artist who was only at the 2nd layer level. It was fine to have that exaggerated sword technique. How could he have such a terrifying body? Gongqi. This can only be cultivated by practicing the profound rank middle grade body refining technique. And with Gongqi, even if he tried his best, he couldn't hurt it at all. Monster. Masha felt empty inside. And it was this flaw that made Luo Mu grab his arm instantly. It's over. Masha's face turned pale instantly. Correct answer. Luo Mu turned around, looked at him, and smiled slightly. Swish. The knife light was like snow. It directly cut across Masha's waist. Crash. In an instant, the bright red hot blood and internal organs slid all over the ground. You will all die here. Masha coughed up blood. There was a look of resentment in his eyes. You talk too much. Luo Mu chopped off his head and tied it around his waist. Fortunately, I practiced the Xian Yang Tyrant body skill. Luo Mu exhaled lightly. The power of the Wu Shang Dao Jing is indeed terrible, but it is useless when facing such a slippery opponent. In the end, you have to rely on your physical body. When the physical body is strong enough, you are not afraid of the east, west, south, north wind. He can make countless mistakes, but the opponent can only make one. Ding! You used the Wu Shang Dao Jing, experienced a battle, triggered a critical hit, and gained 80 times the harvest. The prompt sounded. A lot of insights suddenly flooded into my mind. The saber chi in my body also began to increase gradually, breaking through the number of 60. 80 times, not bad. Luo Mu threw away the long sword in his hand that was already full of gaps, and picked up another one casually. Maintain this high rate. He was confident that he could practice the Wu Shang Dao Jing to perfection today. There has been no fireworks signal for so long. Is there an accident? Luo Mu looked towards the depths of the base. Logically speaking, it should not be difficult for Changqing Man and the other two to deal with a demon Dao martial artist of the 7th layer of the true acupoint realm. But now there is no movement. In addition, a 7th layer of the true acupoint realm appeared outside the base. This has exceeded the upper limit of intelligence. Let's go and take a look. Luo Mu sheathed the knife. Chapter 18, Part 1. Deep inside the stronghold. The scene was in a mess, with gullies everywhere. Although Changqing Man and the other two were still alive, they looked miserable. Especially Zhang Hai. His right shoulder was empty and bleeding. His aura was extremely weak, but he still gritted his teeth and held on. As expected of a disciple of the inner palace, his strength is really strong. Mo Luo applauded. He was besieged by so many martial artists of the same level, but he could still hold on until now. Especially Changqing Man. As expected of the descendant of the blood-brave Marquis, he became more and more courageous in the battle. It even frightened him. The demon Dao fruit is full of waste. So many people are useless. Changqing Man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said coldly, "You are eloquent. I hope you can keep smiling next." Mo Luo was ready to go all out. No more reservations. If he kept on procrastinating, the elders hiding in the dark would be unhappy. Then the huge meteor hammer in his hand began to shake. A strong sense of oppression, like a tide, spread towards Changqing Man and the other two. The faces of the three people changed slightly. You know your own situation best. It is already the last gasp of a spent force. It is difficult to deal with the remaining demon Dao martial artist, let alone Mo Luo. Mo Luo is really insidious. Obviously he is strong enough, but he still lets his men go first, grinding away the status and trump cards of himself and others one by one. He waited until he was completely weak before he went all out. Click. Suddenly there was a sound of footsteps. Not light or heavy, not slow or fast. Mo Luo paused. He thought it was his younger brother Luosha who came back. He said without turning his head, "Rakshasa, you are here, but you are a little late, but you have caught up. Do you know that we caught a big fish today?" The daughter of the dignified blood-brave Marquis. Holding her head is enough to provide a bright future for our brothers. As he said this, Ma Yuo's voice became a little excited. But there was no response for a long time, which made Ma Yuo frown slightly. He couldn't help but turn around. His eyes narrowed immediately, because the person he saw was not his brother, but a very strange figure. The person who came was tall and slender, with a long sword on his waist, and his white robe had long been stained red by blood. "Who are you?" Ma Yuo's eyebrows rose suddenly. "Brother Luo, run. This is a trap." Changqing Man was stunned when she saw Luo Mu coming, and then shouted anxiously. Although Luo Mu has the potential to be invincible in the same realm, his current realm is still too low, and he can never be Ma Yuo's opponent. Looking at this scene and listening to these words, Luo Mu had a strong sense of déjà vu. It seemed that the scene was almost the same when I first met Changqing Man. I didn't expect it to happen again. "Brother? Are you talking about him?" Luo Mu took off the head from his waist and threw it at Mo Luo. Bang! The head fell to the ground and rolled several times before stopping, just beside Mo Luo's feet. Mo Sha died with his eyes wide open, and his eyes were still filled with deep resentment, staring at Mo Luo. "Brother!" Mo Luo came back to his senses. His eyes were bloodshot in an instant, and he roared. He held Mo Sha's head, and there were even tears in his eyes. In this world, he only has his brother as a relative. He once swore to protect Mo Sha with his life. But now, Mo Sha's head has been taken off. This scene also stunned Changqing Man and the other two. Mo Luo's brother, named Mo Sha, is a martial artist of the 7th layer of the true acupoint realm. Even if his strength is not as good as Mo Luo, it is definitely not much different. But now Ma Sha is dead. Died in Luo Mu's hands. The three of them suddenly felt absurd. because Luo Mu was only in the second layer of the true acupoint realm. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Mo Luo looked at Luo Mu, his eyes bloodshot and hysterical. What are you still standing there for? Mo Luo suddenly looked at the 7 men who were still alive. They were all in the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm. Even though Masha was dead, Mo Luo seemed to still maintain a certain calmness or habit, and let his men test the water first. The 6 people looked at each other and could only grit their teeth and rush towards Luo Mu. Interesting. Luo Mu's mouth corners slightly raised. He drew his sword directly out of the sheath. Broken sword style. 70 saber chi surged out of his body, turning into a huge and ferocious blade wheel, and instantly tore the 7 people who rushed over to him into pieces while spinning. For a moment, blood rained. The ground was full of scarlet. Mo Luo touched a piece of broken flesh on his face, and the whole person seemed to be in a daze. But he quickly came back to his senses. The anger in his heart disappeared, leaving only shock. God knows what he saw. Those were 7 powerful men in the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm, and they were all killed by a young man in the 2nd layer of the true acupoint realm with 1 sword. No bones left. Chung Ching Man and the other 2 were also stunned. Opened his mouth slightly. Pa pa pa. Lin Ruffin quickly spit out the toe that fell into his mouth, trembling all over. It's not that he has never killed people, but this is the first time he has seen such a brutal scene. Is that Wuxing Saber Chi? A full 70? Zhang Hai murmured. Among the ranks of profound rank middle grade, Wuxing Sword Sutra is very famous because it is one of the strongest profound rank middle grade martial arts. It's just that the difficulty of practicing is too great. Over time, no one dared to touch it. When he heard Luo Mu chose this, he sneered for a long time, thinking that he was another self-righteous person. In the next few years, he will be stuck in the Wuxing Sword Sutra and cannot make any progress. But what happened before his eyes shattered his 3 views? 70 Saber Chi. It is equivalent to practicing the Wuxing Sword Sutra. Great accomplishment. Cheng Qing Man swallowed her saliva, and her beautiful eyes were full of disbelief. Judging from the time it took Luo Mu to break through to the true acupoint realm, the time he took to get the Wuxing Sword Sutra would definitely not exceed 10 days. And in such a short time, he practiced to great accomplishment? This talent, this understanding, isn't it too terrifying? It is far more outrageous than practicing the Jueshing sword technique in half a month. Chapter 19, Part 1. No wonder he could kill Masha. With such a sword technique, even a martial artist of the 8th-9th layer could kill him. For a moment, the 3 people who had been in despair had a light in their eyes again. Ding! You used the Wuxing Sword Sutra to kill 6 Demon Dao Masters in a row, triggering a critical hit and gaining a 100-fold gain. In his mind, the system prompt sounded. Luo Mu's mouth corners slightly raised. Today's luck is really good. The rare 100-fold gain in the past has appeared for the 2nd time today. Buzz. There are 10 more Wuxing Saber Chi in the body. The total number has reached 80. Like the Jueshing sword technique, the Wuxing Sword Sutra also absorbs death intent and condenses Saber Chi by killing living beings. What are you doing? Why don't you avenge your brother? Luo Mu looked at Mo Luo, who was still holding his head, and his mouth corners slightly raised. Profound rank middle grade, martial arts. The grief and anger on Mo Luo's face had completely disappeared, leaving only a deep solemnity. Judging from the clothes of this person, it seems that he is just an outer palace disciple. But even Chung Ching Man, a genius in the inner palace, has not practiced the Shinpin middle-level martial arts, and an outer palace disciple not only practiced it, but also practiced it to great accomplishment. This is simply too outrageous. Is Changle Academy now upside down? The outer palace is strong, and the inner palace is weak? Take a deep breath. Mo Luo put the head in his hand aside and slowly stood up. Killing intent gradually emerged in his eyes. So what if it is profound rank middle grade? He is the 8th layer of the true acupoint realm. He is a whole 6th layer higher than this person. There may be a chance to win. Besides, even if he can't beat him in the end, there are still elders, and the elders will definitely take action. Boy, give me my brother's life back. Mo Luo roared. The meteor hammer in his hand swung, raising strong winds, and sand and rocks flew everywhere. Luo Mu nodded slightly. This is much stronger than the previous man. Just this momentum is very impressive. Even a lion will fight a rabbit with all its strength. He will not underestimate anyone, and will always be alert to the possibility of a capsize in the gutter. So he will use all his strength when he attacks. Leaving the blade style, Saber Chi permeated Luo Mu's body, instantly collided with Mo Luo. Good. Luo Mu prefers this hard-hitting style. The feeling of muscle trembling and bone rumbling is really exciting. Clang, clang, clang. In just a few breaths, the two have fought more than 10 times. Dense sparks burst in the air. The original place was also covered with dust and smoke. Bang! A knife slashed out. Mo Luo retreated frantically. He looked at the meteor hammer in his hand, and his eyes twitched wildly. This sword technique is considered top-notch even among the profound rank middle-grade martial arts. You should know that his meteor hammer is a refined product. But now it is actually scarred and about to break in the collision with the saber chi. If you retreat again, you will die. A calm voice came from the dust, and the sword light is as bright as snow. Clang. Luo subconsciously used the meteor hammer to resist, but this time, the meteor hammer could no longer support it and broke directly. And the long sword also chopped Luo's shoulder. The strong death intention rushed in crazily, devouring the vitality. Luo's face changed drastically. He retreated again, but Luo Mu had already held the sword with both hands. The saber chi around him surged, gradually covering the blade, and turned into a terrifying saber chi that was 50 meters long. Elder, if you don't make a move, I'm dead. Luo covered his right shoulder and shouted anxiously. From the brief fight just now, he had already understood clearly that he was no match for this boy. This sword technique was too fierce and overbearing. From beginning to end, he had only been beaten. Ba Dao style. One sword to no life. Cut. Luo Mu was not distracted and was not affected at all. He just wanted to cut this sword. Among all the moves in Wushang Dao Jing, Ba Dao style can be said to be the strongest, integrating all saber chi and turning into a sword to no life. The attack range is very large. Everything in sight is chopped into pieces. 50 meters of saber chi came crashing down. The speed was extremely fast. Luo was affected by the death intention in his body and had no time to dodge. He could only subconsciously use his hands to resist, and the result was naturally obvious. Boom. The ground shook, and a very long knife-marked gully appeared. Moro also split into two and lay on the ground. His tenacious vitality prevented him from dying immediately. He trembled for a while before he completely lost his life. It's worthy of being called the tyrant sword style. Luo Mu was amazed. Even the 8th layer of the true acupoint realm could be killed with one sword, without any suspense. After Moro died, the death intention in his body also turned into gray mist and poured into Luo Mu's body. Compared with the death intention provided by others, Moro's was obviously more. Ding! You used the Shangdao Sutra to kill an 8th layer martial artist of the true acupoint realm, triggering a critical hit and gaining 300 times the reward. The prompt sounded. How much? Luo Mu was startled and even doubted whether he had heard it wrong. So far, the highest that has appeared is only 100 times. It has never been surpassed. But now there is a 300-fold. Boom. There is no time to think about it. A huge amount of swordsmanship insights suddenly emerged in my mind. The death will in his body also began to grow wildly. It seemed that he had really killed another 300 Demon Dao martial artists like Luo. The death will continue to transform into the lifeless saber chi. 81. 82. Soon, it reached the limit, 100, and the lifeless sword sutra finally reached the state of perfection. The sword technique is perfect. Luo Mu was excited. To be honest, he didn't expect perfection to come so quickly. In his estimation, it would basically be impossible to complete it today, because when he came here, there were not many Demon Dao martial artists still alive. System awesome. Luo Mu secretly gave a thumbs up. At the same time, he was still madly absorbing the sword technique insights in his mind. This wave of 300 times, the harvest is really too great. So much so that it can't be absorbed quickly all at once. In addition, as the insights continued to be absorbed, Luo Mu suddenly had a very strange feeling, as if the sword in his hand had life. There was a tendency to gradually merge with him. This can't be. Luo Mu's pupils suddenly shrank slightly. The rumored knife force. I remember that in the martial arts class, the teacher said that when a person has mastered martial arts to perfection, he will continue to work hard and practice. Then there will be a chance to get in touch with the legendary martial Dao. Gritting his teeth, Luo Mu calmed down. Because now is not the time to think about this. I remember that this demon shouted something like elder before he died. Obviously there are still masters. Then he looked up and looked around, keeping alert, but no one appeared. Was this a scam? Chapter 20, Part 1. Tada! Suddenly, footsteps sounded. Luo Mu immediately tightened his grip on the hilt and looked in the direction of the sound. But the person who came was not the Demon Dao elder as he imagined, but a middle-aged man. He was wearing the clothes of the academy. Don't be nervous, I have already dealt with the person. The middle-aged man smiled slightly and threw the head in his hand to the ground. Greetings, Elder Lin. Chung Ching Man and the other two, who were still confused, suddenly showed surprise on their faces and hurriedly stood up to salute. Elder Lin. Luo Mu also saluted. I didn't expect that there would be an elder of the academy secretly following this training. But after thinking about it, it is also normal. The academy can't have sent disciples here without considering this aspect. If, like today, Demon Dao has been waiting for it. There will definitely be heavy casualties. In addition, there is another possibility. The elders of the academy are not protecting the disciples who come to train, but Chengqing Man, the Marquis of Blood and Courage, is not an ordinary prince. Whether in terms of strength or status, he is the best in the entire Changle 7 counties. If Chengqing Man has a problem, the academy is to blame. Thinking of this, Luo Mu couldn't help but think of the scene when he first met Chengqing Man. Even if he was not there at that time, perhaps Chengqing Man would not really be in danger. It's just that he took action, causing the people who secretly protected him to be too lazy to show up. Yeah. Elder Lin nodded slightly. Then he waved his right hand, and the broken arm on the ground flew to Jiang Hai's shoulder. The mysterious light flowed, and it was sutured instantly. Take this medicine, and you will be fine in half a month at most. Elder Lin said. Thank you, Elder. Jiang Hai was overjoyed and quickly took the pill. As a swordsman, without his left arm, the impact is still very large. Elder Lin, have you been following us? Chengqing Man asked. Obviously, she and Elder Lin have known each other for a long time, and they are even very familiar with each other. Of course, if it is an ordinary experience, I will not care about you. But this is the Demon Dao base, I still have to come and take care of it. Elder Lin said with a smile. Then he turned sideways and looked at Luo Mu. He couldn't help but nod. I didn't expect that there would be a monster in the outer palace this year. For geniuses among geniuses, people generally call them monsters. He has 2 profound rank middle grade martial arts, 1 perfect and 1 basic accomplishment. Elder Lin was shocked. It is very rare in the inner palace to have such a foundation in the second layer of the true acupoint realm. Basic accomplishment? Hearing this, the 3 were stunned. Then they remembered that Luo Mu also practiced a profound rank middle grade body refining technique, Xian Yang Ba Ti Gong. Unexpectedly, Luo Mu even had basic accomplishment in the technique. How long has it been? Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. Is this the strength of the elder of the academy? His martial arts attainments can be seen at a glance. It seems that this academy ceremony will be lively. Elder Lin seemed to be meaningful. Okay, hurry up and leave, I still have things to do. After saying that, Elder Lin flashed and disappeared on the spot. Junior Sister Cheng, you are most familiar with this Elder Lin. Do you know his specific strength? Jiang Hai asked. Above the spirit sea. Chengqing Man thought for a moment and said. Jiang Hai and Lin Ruffing took a deep breath. Above the spirit sea, isn't that Xiandan? The academy actually sent a Xiandan master to follow secretly, but it should be mainly to protect Chengqing Man. The 2 soon figured out the key point. Xiandan? Luo Mu's eyes were slightly raised. Once upon a time, for him, Xiandan could be said to be an unattainable dream. He might not be able to reach it in his lifetime, but now as long as he works hard to practice, let alone Xiandan, even the future opening heaven is not a fantasy. Brother Luo, you are really hidden. I didn't expect that in such a short time, you actually practiced the swordsmanship to such a high level. Chengqing Man walked in front of Luo Mu, his eyes shining. It's just luck. I broke through while practicing. Luo Mu smiled slightly. Hearing this, Chengqing Man rolled his eyes immediately. This guy is really annoying. What is luck? What is a breakthrough while practicing? I don't slack off at ordinary times. Why haven't I made a breakthrough? I have to thank Junior Brother Luo again this time. If it weren't for you, we would be in danger. Chengqing Man said seriously. Not bad. Jiang Hai and Lin Ruffeng came over and nodded. At this time, the 2 of them no longer had the arrogance on their faces, only admiration from the heart. This junior brother from the outer palace, whether in strength or talent, is already in existence that they can't reach. Senior sister, you are too kind. With Elder Lin here, there will be no danger. Luo Mu shook his head. At the critical moment, Elder Lin will naturally show up. That being said, if you are not here, our experience will be a failure. Chengqing Man replied. Once the elders of the academy intervene and kill Imo Luo, the experience will end in failure. There will be no reward. That's right. Luo Mu suddenly realized. I almost forgot about this. He came here for the mission reward, so he couldn't fail. Otherwise, the next training resources would become a big problem. In addition, we will be laughed at by other disciples in the inner palace. Say something like, it's embarrassing that you can't even complete a small mission. Chengqing Man described vividly, even pinching the sound to simulate. Luo Mu laughed out loud. I didn't expect Chengqing Man to have such a lovely side. Jiang Hai and Lin Ruffeng looked at each other. Surprise flashed in their eyes. To be honest, I have known Chengqing Man for so long, but I have never seen Chengqing Man like this. Usually she is half-hearted, serious, but now she has no airs. All her expressions come from her true heart. This place is not far from the ancient city of Xuanyang. Let's go to the city and have a good rest. As the host, I will pay for all the consumption in the city. Chengqing Man said generously. Junior Sister Cheng, you said that? Jiang Hai and the others instantly became alert. Of course, don't save money for me. Chung Qingman put her hands on her hips. Hearing this, Luo Mu looked at the knife in his hand thoughtfully. It seems that it's time to change. Chapter 21, Part 1. Then Luo Mu cut off the heads of all the demon Dao martial artists he killed. The first layer of the true acupoint realm has 5,000 contribution points. For someone like Imo Luo, it is already as high as 10,000. Luo Mu had to calculate that he had already gained nearly 70,000 contribution points this time. It's really a gold belt for killing and arson. In addition to contribution points, these demon Dao martial artists also had some resources on them, which was an unexpected gain. Because there were too many heads, it was unsightly to tie them around the waist. So they were all put into Chung Qingman's storage ring. This was also the first time Luo Mu saw a storage secret device. In the cultivation world, even the smallest storage secret device is very expensive and not affordable for ordinary people. Because Zhang Hai was injured and could not travel for a long time, he had to stop and rest every half an hour. Luo Mu did not waste this rest time. Not far away, he began to practice swordsmanship over and over again. Killing Imo Luo gave him a huge gain of 300 times. There are a lot of insights into the sword techniques. He has already stepped into the door of sword power. As long as he keeps practicing, he will definitely be able to successfully comprehend the rumored sword power. This is also the mysterious power that all martial artists dream of. Any martial artist, as long as he has sword power, his strength will undergo a complete qualitative change. Using the simplest comparison, at least more than 10 times. It's just that it's extremely difficult to comprehend the sword power. Looking at the entire Chang'e Academy, only the top-ranked monsters can have it. The setting sun. The afterglow of the setting sun shines on Luo Mu. He is focused, without any distraction, immersed in his own sword skills. Chung Qingman and the other two have been stunned. I may understand why this junior brother Luo can practice the Wuxing Sword Sutra in such a short time. Zhang Hai said softly. In addition to his own high talent, he is also so hardworking. Yes. Lin Ruffing nodded. After leaving the Demon Dao stronghold, Luo Mu would practice swordplay alone not far away only during rest time. He would never sit down to rest. There are many geniuses in this world, but the most frightening ones are those who are talented and work hard. Chung Qingman held her chin with both hands. In her beautiful eyes, Luo Mu's tall and agile figure was reflected. My father said, if geniuses don't work hard, God will take back their talents sooner or later. Only hardworking geniuses can reach the top of martial Dao. Ding! You practiced hard, practiced the Wuxing Dao Jing completely, triggered a critical hit, and gained 30 times the reward. In my mind, the system's prompt sounded. Luo Mu's mouth corners slightly raised. This may be the most beautiful sound in the world. When the sunset completely sank to the west, when the full moon rose in the east, the group finally arrived at Xuanyang City. This is the largest ancient city in Fengdu County. The city wall is towering, nearly 100 meters high, and the blue-gray bricks and stones are filled with the breath of time. It is vicissitudes and ancient. Xuanyang City's existence can be traced back to the founding of the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign, and it has a long history. Throughout the ages, countless heroes have been born. So Xuanyang City has a very deep foundation. There are many royal families in it. For example, the now famous Shuayong Marquis Qing family. Even if it is dark, Xuanyang City is still brightly lit and bustling. In the words of Chung Qingman, this is a city that never sleeps. There are lanterns everywhere, and there is a long river in the center of the city, with water lanterns densely covered, and both sides are mortals, or martial artists who come to join in the fun. This is the big city. Luo Mu nodded slightly. As an ascetic monk, he naturally has never been to such a big city. But it is lively. He is not interested in playing with the scenery. He just wants to find a quiet place to continue practicing. Chung Qingman saw that Luo Mu was not interested, so he led the way and went to Cheng's house. It was not as magnificent as imagined. It was just an ordinary mansion. The young lady is back. Soon, the voice sounded in the mansion. Then the footsteps continued. The servants stood in the yard to greet them. Welcome the young lady back to the mansion. The housekeeper was an old man. Although he had white hair, his eyes were bright and vigorous. He looked strong and sturdy. There were several deep scars on his face. It was probably because he retired from the battlefield and served as a housekeeper in the mansion. Uncle Gong, has my father been back? Chung Qingman asked. The Marquis has not been back for 3 years. He has been away. Recently, the imperial capital has issued another task, which needs to be handled by the Marquis. Uncle Gong shook his head. It's the imperial capital again. Chung Qingman frowned. There are so many princes in the dynasty. Why did he catch his father alone? It has been almost 4 years since she last saw her father. Forget it. Chung Qingman sighed helplessly. By the way, these 3 are my good friends. Uncle Gong must treat them well. Yes. Uncle Gong nodded. Then he looked at Luo Mu and the other 2. They were all covered in blood. Obviously, they had just experienced a battle, and it was a more tragic one. But what surprised him was that the young man with the sword on his waist, who was only in the second layer of the true acupoint realm, was in the best condition. Even though he was covered in blood, he didn't have any injuries. It was obviously the blood of the enemy. Take a rest tonight, and I will take you to visit Xuanyang City tomorrow, Chung Chingman said with a smile. Then he turned and left. 3. Follow me, Uncle Gong said. Thank you. Luo Mu nodded. Although the old man in front of him looked like an ordinary person, without any martial Dao aura, in Luo Mu's perception, he was like a quiet tiger, which made people feel threatened. It was obvious that he had deliberately concealed his strength. I also didn't know what his specific level was. Chapter 22, Part 1. My friend, I wonder what happened to you today. Uncle Gong hesitated and asked when he sent Luo Mu to a courtyard. The mission of the academy is to clean up a demon Dao stronghold. Although there were some accidents, it was a close call. Seeing Uncle Gong's eyes fall on his blood-red clothes, Luo Mu knew what he was going to ask. Then he said briefly, "These thieves from the Red Moon Demon cult dared to attack the young lady. They are really looking for death." After listening, Uncle Gong's eyes flashed with strong murderous intent. Although it was only a moment, Luo Mu's pupil shrank slightly. He almost drew his sword instinctively. So far, he has not encountered such exaggerated murderous intent. The picture of a surging sea of blood even appeared in his mind. It seems that his guess is correct. This old housekeeper of the Marquis's mansion is very powerful. Sorry, I lost my composure for a moment. You should take a rest. Uncle Gong came back to his senses and showed a kind smile on his face. Someone will bring hot water later. After that, he turned and left. Close the door. Luo Mu stretched his body. Although he didn't feel tired after the body-refining basic accomplishment, he was already a little tired. Take a good rest tonight. Luo Mu knew the principle of combining work and rest. The next day, breaking dawn, Luo Mu started practicing swordsmanship in the yard early. He was not far from the sword force. As long as there was a high multiplier, he could immediately break through the window paper and successfully comprehend it. Even if there was no, 1 or 2 days would be enough. So Luo Mu was full of motivation now. Once he comprehended the sword force, I believe that in the realm of Zhenxiao, even in the inner palace, there will not be many people who can be his opponent. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door. But Luo Mu was so immersed in his swordplay that he didn't hear anything. And Chung Chingman was outside the door. No one. Chung Chingman frowned. Then she jumped onto the wall and saw Luo Mu, shirtless, practicing with his swordplay intently. He looked like he had nothing else to do. What a martial arts fanatic. You started practicing so early. If my father saw it, he would definitely like it. Chung Chingman's mind flashed back to how her father practiced martial arts before. It was the same. He was so selfless. When he was a child, if Uncle Gong hadn't protected him in time, he would have been unconsciously hit to death by his father's elbow. Of course, that was because he was ignorant and wanted to scare his father from behind. Thinking of this, Chung Chingman carefully left the wall. He didn't want to disturb Luo Mu. Some things, just go and arrange them yourself. Outside Xuanyang City, a long team was coming in a mighty way. Everyone's color was deep black. Looking around, it looks like a long black dragon. At the front of the team, there is a flag fluttering in the wind, with a 9 embroidered on it. Your Highness, we can actually ride on flying beasts or cloud boats. With your status, no one in the huge Xuanyang City will dare to object. In the luxurious carriage in the middle, a eunuch thought for a moment and said, "We are not here to act arrogantly. Although Xuanyang City is not the real core of the 7 counties of Chengel, many noble families are entrenched here. Especially the blood-brave Marquis Chung Tiansong. The speaker is a very handsome boy. He looks about 17 or 18 years old, wearing a black and gold python robe. He is full of nobleness. If I can bring the blood-brave Marquis under my command, it will be like having an extra arm." The boy picked up the tea in front of him and took a sip. Although he is still very young, his light golden eyes are already full of maturity. "Your Highness is wise," the eunuch complimented. "Among all the princes of this dynasty, the strength of the blood-brave Marquis is not very strong, but who can blame him for?" The eunuch stopped talking here, because the boy looked at him. The eunuch also realized that he was talking too much. In addition to winning over the princes of the 7 commanderies of Chengel, by the way, see if there are any talented people. Don't focus all your attention on the older generation. The boy put down the teacup. There have been constant wars on the border, and many princes have died. These places have been vacated. Unfortunately, I don't have any outstanding people under my command. Otherwise, I can ask my father for the title of Marquis now. Your Highness is very lucky, and you will definitely meet him. The eunuch said hurriedly. "Well, you go out first." The boy nodded. After the eunuch left, the boy sighed lightly and a touch of tenderness slowly appeared on his handsome face. It's a pity that his maternal origin is a bit poor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to go to the 7 commanderies of Chang'e to grow his wings. Thinking, the young man twisted a strand of black hair and twirled it between his fingers. But it didn't seem right. He quickly let it go. He resumed his dignified demeanor. Chapter 23, Part 1. Dusk. This young man. At the gate of the courtyard, Uncle Gong looked at Luo Mu, who was still practicing sword, and a rare shock flashed in his eyes. He came once in the morning, noon, and evening. Following the lady's order, he came to deliver meals. As a result, when he came in the morning, Luo Mu was practicing sword. At noon, the sun was shining brightly, and he was practicing sword. Now it is evening, and he is still practicing. The future is promising. Uncle Gong nodded slightly and put the meal aside. There are many geniuses in this world, but it is rare to see such hard work. Luo Mu has been immersed in his own swordsmanship. He doesn't pay attention to the situation outside at all, so he doesn't know if anyone has come. At a certain moment, Luo Mu suddenly stopped. There seems to be a sound of a bottleneck breaking in his body. The next second, Luo Mu's whole temperament changed instantly. An indescribable, mysterious momentum also emerged from his body. It's like a long sword out of its sheath, full of a sense of dominance. Wherever the blade goes, it seems to be able to chop everything. The surrounding void even had a brief stagnation. Luo Mu suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like a knife, as if containing endless sharpness. He held the knife with both hands. He did not use any strength. It was just an ordinary knife cut. But the rockery in front of him was instantly split into two, and even the courtyard wall not far away was suddenly shaken, and a smooth crack appeared. Finally, figured it out. Luo Mu put away the knife and laughed loudly. The laughter was full of excitement and excitement. Martial Dao momentum, the mysterious power in the rumors. How many martial artists dream of the realm? I didn't expect that one day I could also touch it and comprehend it. The knife momentum, the invisible momentum, can enhance the power of the knife, and can also affect the surroundings and shock others' spirits. Luo Mu held the knife in front of his eyes, reflecting the bright light. In a life and death battle, half a second of daze is enough to be fatal, and according to his estimation, once the sword force is released, the opponents within 10 meters will be shocked for more than 2 seconds. 2 seconds. It is enough for a person to die more than 4 or 5 times. With my current strength, unless the opponent also understands the martial Dao, I will be invincible in the realm of Zhenxiao. Luo Mu's mouth curled up slightly. But the martial Dao force is not something that everyone can comprehend. Even in the academy where geniuses are everywhere, only the top-ranked inner palace monsters can have it. It's only 10% of the sword force at present. When the sword force is improved, the power will be even stronger. Luo Mu put down the long sword. I remember that in the martial arts class before, the teacher said that every time the martial Dao force is improved by 10%, the power will be multiplied. Just want to improve the sword force. I'm afraid practicing the Wuxing Sword Sutra will not work. Luo Mu's eyes moved slightly. It is impossible to perfect your sword skills by just learning a martial arts book. The Wuxing Sword Sutra is only a small part of the vast sword skills. You need to practice more sword skills to gain different sword skills and increase your sword skills. Forget it. For the time being, I won't care about sword skills. Luo Mu shook his head. Next, I should improve my cultivation. I am still in the second layer of the true acupoint realm, which is really low. It is fun to fight across levels. But wouldn't it be better to crush the realm directly? Thinking about it, Luo Mu prepared to go back to the room and use the resources looted from the demonic cultivator to practice. But at this moment, the courtyard door was knocked. He opened the door. Chung Qingman was outside the door. I thought you, a martial arts fanatic, were still practicing swordsmanship, but I didn't expect you to take a break. Chung Qingman said. Sorry. Luo Mu was a little embarrassed. It seemed that he had promised yesterday to go to Xuanyang City for a stroll today, but he had forgotten it. What are you sorry for? It was just a joke? Chung Qingman chuckled and walked into the courtyard. Come, look at the good things I prepared for you. Today is not just a stroll. Chung Qingman's original intention was to repay Luo Mu and the other two. Critical moment. Neither Jiang Hai nor Lin Rufeng chose to escape, and Luo Mu was even more powerful, beheading the demon Luo, so that the mission of the academy would not fail. She was like her father, very generous. Have a grudge and repay a favor. Chung Qingman took out a jade box from the secret storage ring. Even if the jade box was covered, a strong medicinal fragrance permeated, refreshing the heart. Luo Mu just took a whiff. He felt that the blood in his body began to heat up, emitting a desire. It was definitely a very high-level spiritual medicine. This is the third-grade silver-grain grass. Although the medicinal power is very powerful, the medicinal properties are very mild. If a martial artist in the true acupoint realm takes it, there is no need to worry about the backlash of the medicinal power. Chung Ching-man said. 3rd grade. Luo Mu was slightly stunned. This was a bit beyond his expectations. I thought that Chung Ching-man would give a 2nd grade elixir like last time, which would be very good. Who would have thought that it was silver-grained grass? This is a cultivation resource that even Spirit Sea Realm martial artists are very jealous of. If it is placed in the exchange pavilion of the Academy, I am afraid it will cost hundreds of thousands of contribution points to exchange it. In addition, this is the storage secret ring I bought for you. Although the capacity is not large, it is enough for you to store hundreds of heads. Speaking of this, Chung Ching-man smiled mischievously. We have known each other for a while. In her heart, Luo Mu has a special liking for human heads. I'll take the spirit medicine, but forget about the secret storage ring. Luo Mu pondered for a while, but shook his head. He likes to trade equally. No one owes anyone this way. But now, Chung Ching-man's repayment has far exceeded that. Brother Luo is still being distant. Do you think my life is not worth these things? Chung Ching-man frowned immediately. She felt the gap in Luo Mu's words. Although Elder Lin followed us secretly, we didn't know, so you saved me. This is the fact first. Chung Ching-man's words made Luo Mu at a loss for a moment. It seems to be the truth. Take it, I, Chung Ching-man, have always been grateful and will repay you with gratitude. Chung Ching-man put the secret storage ring in Luo Mu's hand. By the way, I also made a spirit sword for you in the refining treasure building. I will accompany you to get it in 5 days. Spirit sword. Luo Mu's eyes moved slightly. Weapons in the world are divided into mortal weapon, Balian, spirit weapon, heavy weapon, saint weapon, and divine weapon. Generally speaking, Balian is very precious. Not to mention spirit weapon. Unlike Balian, spirit weapon is more solid and difficult to damage. And there will be special ores or small formations in spirit weapon, which can increase the power of some martial arts. Martial artists of the same level who use spirit weapon can definitely beat Balian. To sum up, there are only 3 things in total. Don't think too much. Good night. Chung Ching-man smiled, then turned and left. The breeze came gently, and the girl's black hair fluttered, making this slightly hot summer seem a little cooler. Although, there is always a feeling of being kept by a rich woman. Luo Mu retracted his gaze and shook his head slightly. Of course, he did not delve into this issue. If you don't take what God gives, you will suffer the consequences. If a bargain comes to your door, you should take it. Chapter 24, Part 1. Back to the room. Luo Mu put the storage secret ring on his finger. This secret ring can automatically adjust according to the size of the finger, which is strange. After dripping blood to recognize the master, the consciousness immediately entered a small space. As Chung Ching-man said, it can indeed hold 100 heads. And the heads of Mo Luo and others have been put in by Chung Ching-man in advance. It will be much more convenient to kill people and rob treasures in the future. Luo Mu nodded slightly. Then he opened the jade box, and a spiritual grass with a green body and many silver stripes appeared in front of him. And the rich medicinal fragrance directly filled the whole room. 3rd grade silver grain grass. Luo Mu's eyes were full of fiery colors. Silver grain grass has a total of 7 leaves. It is also the essence of medicinal power. Each leaf has an effect far beyond the Piyuan pill. The medicinal power of this plant alone is enough for him to attack the Great Acupoint Passage 7 times. If he hits more critically, it shouldn't be a problem to cultivate to the perfection of the true aperture realm. Luo Mu took off a piece and swallowed it. Boom. Almost the moment it entered the stomach, the powerful medicinal power like the river and the sea surged. Even though he had been prepared, Luo Mu was still shocked. It can only be said that it is worthy of being the 3rd grade spirit medicine. Without time to think about it, Luo Mu began to absorb the medicinal power, and his chi and blood also increased wildly in a short period of time, until it was more than 10 times the original. You can even faintly hear the roar of the river in your blood vessels. You want to open the acupoints. Your own chi and blood must be very strong. Otherwise, you can't break through the aperture opening barrier at all. Luo Mu was able to break through to the true aperture realm mainly because of the Puyuan Dan. However, the medicinal power of the Puyuan Dan is not enough to open the 3rd acupoint, and now only spirit medicine like silver grain grass can do it. Break. Feeling that it was almost done, Luo Mu mobilized all his chi and blood and rushed towards acupoint on his right foot. The blood and chi surged, violently and wildly. The naked eye could see that under the impact of the blood and chi, the barrier of the great orifice was shaking wildly, and then cracks appeared and peeled off piece by piece. Luo Mu waited patiently. About half an hour later, crack. The barrier of the great orifice finally collapsed completely. The pale golden blood of the primordial origin flowed throughout the body and was absorbed by the body, greatly enhancing the body's functions and the quality of blood and chi. Luo Mu exhaled lightly. I still remember that when I attacked the first great orifice, it was very simple and broke easily. The second one was not difficult either. But now it's the third one, and I can clearly feel the difficulty, which can be seen from the time it took. A full half an hour. If the medicinal power of the silver-grain grass was not strong enough, he would most likely fail. And this is the problem of aptitude. The better the aptitude, the weaker the barrier of the great orifice, and it can be easily broken. Why does it take half an hour? The third great acupoint is so difficult, you can imagine what will happen in the future. Luo Mu's eyes narrowed slightly. There are also spiritual objects in the world that can improve qualifications, but they are hard to come by, and I don't know when I will encounter them. Ding! You practice hard, take spirit medicine, impact the great acupoint, trigger a critical hit, and get 30 times the reward. Suddenly, a prompt sounded. 30 times of clearance appeared in my mind. It doesn't matter if I don't meet it, the worst thing is to keep clearing the barriers. I have plenty of opportunities. Luo Mu's mouth curled up slightly. 30 times the reward is equivalent to clearing the barriers 30 times. As long as the luck is not too bad, as long as he succeeds once in 30 times, he will succeed in breaking through in reality. Next, consolidate the realm. Luo Mu sat cross-legged. His hands sank and placed on his abdomen. The true acupoint realm is quite special. After each breakthrough, it takes a certain amount of time to settle. After absorbing all the blood of the original beginning, you can proceed to the next rank 1 stage. Time flies, and it is 5 days later. Luo Mu pushed open the door and walked out. He stretched his body and felt the sunshine. A smile appeared on his face. The absorption of Yuanchu blood can be active or passive, so in the rules of the system, it is also considered as cultivation. Therefore, ordinary people may need several months to absorb it. He crit, 1 or 2 days is enough. Therefore, in these 5 days, he broke through 2 small realms and successfully stepped into the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. Luo Mu threw a few punches casually. The punch was heavy, like punching in the water, and the air around him felt like being pulled. I can practice a boxing technique when I have the chance in the future. Luo Mu thought. His current physical body is far superior to that of a martial artist in the same realm. If he practices boxing, he will definitely get twice the result with half the effort. Dong dong dong. The courtyard door knocked. No need to think. Everyone knows it is Cheng Qingman. Open the door. It is indeed. It's rare that she is not practicing. Cheng Qingman raised an eyebrow. Quite surprised. I haven't practiced swordsmanship these days. Luo Mu smiled slightly. Hearing this, Cheng Qingman seemed to notice something and took a breath of cold air. Because she found that Luo Mu had actually broken through to the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. Remember that it was only the 2nd layer of the true acupoint realm 5 days ago. Isn't this cultivation speed a bit too fast? It seems that your aptitude is indeed too good. Cheng Qingman swallowed her saliva. She is a genius in the eyes of the world. But every time she opens a big acupoint, it takes more than 20 days to absorb all the Yuanchu blood. But what about Luo Mu? Calculated. I'm afraid 1 day is enough. Give you enough resources, it's easy to complete the true acupoint realm. Cheng Qingman was shocked. In response, Luo Mu just smiled and didn't explain too much. Instead, he changed the subject. Let's go. Aren't you going to take me to get the spirit sword? Yes. Hearing this, Cheng Qingman nodded. This is the purpose of her coming here. Today is the day when the spirit sword is unveiled. Chapter 25, Part 1. Lianbao Tower. A relatively common name, but it is well known in the territory of the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign dynasty, because the weapons refined in this building are extremely superior in both appearance and quality. Under the leadership of Cheng Qingman, Luo Mu soon arrived at Lianbao Tower. Miss Cheng is very punctual. The manager of Lianbao Tower came out and said with a smile, although Cheng Qingman is the daughter of Shuiyongho, there are so many princes in the huge Xuanyang city, and Lianbao Tower is also an apex-level force. Naturally, it will not be as flattering and respectful to Cheng Qingman as others. The spirit knife is ready. Cheng Qingman went straight to the point. Of course, the manager nodded, and then looked at Luo Mu. It should be this young friend who wants a knife. That's right. Luo Mu nodded. After realizing the knife's momentum, his eyes were quite sharp, even if they were hidden. It was still like a light in the dark night, attracting attention. Follow me. The steward walked in. The inner room was quite spacious, with weapons hanging on the walls. Luo Mu only took a casual glance and knew that these weapons were at least 100 times refined. None of them were ordinary items. Please take a look. The steward took out a special box and slowly opened it in front of Luo Mu. Clang. Almost the moment it was opened, a sharp aura emerged from the box. The weapons around were all shaken. This is a long sword about 4.5 feet long. The whole body is black, like a crystal. There are many wonderful patterns engraved on the surface. It looks like a formation. Be careful. This kind of weapon has some spirituality. If you touch it without authorization, it will cause the weapon to resist. The steward reminded. But Luo Mu directly grabbed the handle with his right hand. The steward was stunned. It stands to reason that such a casual touch will definitely cause the knife to be injured. But this spiritual knife miraculously did not react at all. Luo Mu naturally felt the resistance of the spiritual knife. But he had now realized the power of the knife. Facing the power of the knife, the resistance of the spiritual knife was not worth mentioning at all. Luo Mu put 2 fingers of his left hand together and gently wiped the blade, especially the blade. With his physical strength, his skin actually felt cut. It was very sharp. Good knife. Luo Mu's eyes brightened. Whether it was the appearance or the sharpness, he liked it very much. It was completely incomparable to the previous knives. The products of my refining treasure building are naturally fine products. The manager said proudly, young friend can drip blood to recognize the master. After recognizing the master, you can discover more mysterious things. Hearing this, Luo Mu dripped a drop of blood on the blade. In an instant, the blade absorbed the blood. Buzz. A mysterious induction was immediately established between them. The knife in his hand seemed to be alive and no longer cold. This is a high-grade spiritual sword, which contains 3 magic arrays. When it is activated, it can enhance the power of your swordsmanship. It can be improved by about 30%. 30%. It sounds like a small amount, but it is already very high. For martial artists of the same level, 0.5% is enough to determine the winner, let alone 30%. Formation? Luo Mu nodded. He could indeed sense 3 small formations hidden deep in the spirit sword. Once the blood and chi are stimulated, the formation can be activated immediately. I wonder if you are satisfied? The manager said with a smile. Good sword. Luo Mu just answered with 2 words. Then he sheathed the sword and hung it around his waist. If you need to upgrade or repair it in the future, you can continue to come to my refining treasure building. The price is absolutely fair. The manager said. Yes. Luo Mu nodded. When will senior sister Chang return to the academy? After walking out of the refining treasure building, Luo Mu asked. The academy ceremony was getting closer and closer. He had to hurry back and exchange the gains from this trip for resources to improve himself again. There are many hidden talents in the inner palace, so we must not take it lightly. It seems that junior brother Luo is eager to go home, so let's go back together tomorrow. Chung Qingman said with a smile. Okay. Just as the 2 were about to go home, but an excited voice came. Go to Myriad Manifestations Pavilion quickly. Yuan Nongbai, the young master of the Yuan family, is going to challenge Feng Qinghe of the Feng family. What? Is Yuan Nongbai so brave? Feng Qinghe is the 15th ranked strong man on the hidden dragon list. Who knows? Go and see. For a while, many people ran towards the Myriad Manifestations Pavilion. Yuan Nongbai is back too. Chung Qingman said in surprise. Where did these 2 people come from? Luo Mu didn't want to join in the fun. Nothing was more important than his own practice, but when he heard the 3 words, hidden dragon list, he immediately became interested. He had been practicing hard all the time and had forgotten about the hidden dragon list. In order to motivate martial artists to practice, the dynasty specially set up several lists. The hidden dragon list is one of them. Anyone who is on the list can get a considerable amount of resource rewards at the Myriad Manifestations Pavilion every month. In addition, if a student of the academy is on the list, the academy will also give rewards. There are a total of 100 hidden dragon lists, which are for talented martial artists in the true acupoint realm. The Yuan family and the Feng family are both big families in Xuanyang City. The Feng family's ancestors also had kings and princes, but later they were interrupted and the title of prince was taken back by the court. And the Yuan family has always retained the title of prince. Yuan Nongbai is the best of the current young generation of the Yuan family. He is in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm and is very powerful. Like us, he is a student of the academy. In the true acupoint realm of the inner palace, he is already at the top level. As for Feng Qinghe, although he has excellent talent, he did not join our Changle Academy, but chose the profound Heaven Sword sect. Chung Qingman said a lot in one breath. It also gave Luo Mu a general understanding. Profound Heaven Sword sect. A famous apex-level sect in the 7 counties of Changle. Although its overall strength is definitely not as good as that of the academy, it is also very strong and cannot be ignored. Since the establishment of the Martial Alliance, the strength of the sect has continued to grow, and it is no longer comparable to the past. So many geniuses now may not choose the academy. Chung Qingman added. Yeah. Luo Mu nodded slightly. The academy was established by the dynasty. In the words of the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign, all geniuses and heroes are in our hands. But now the influence of the sect is almost as strong as that of the academy. Do you want to go and see it? Chung Qingman asked. Go.
Thank you for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. As always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments. I'd also appreciate your thoughts on the ad experience in this video. Let me know in the comments below.